Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto finds an ancient lab konoha. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by JAYSEN and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Konoha Forest, April 12, 2305 HRS. A young boy could be seen racing as fast as his legs could carry him through the forests that bordered the village hidden in the leaves, Konoha. This boy in particular had a few unique features to him, such as his bright orange jumpsuit, sun-colored blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, very unique whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks, and was carrying a rather large scroll on his back. As he stopped in a clearing, his mind wandered back to the events that led to him being there in the first place, which happened earlier that day. Flashback. 8 hours ago at Konoha Ninja Academy, Naruto sat alone and dejected on a swing in the courtyard of the academy. He had just failed the graduation exam for the third time, and had to sit and watch his classmates celebrate with their families. Some of the parents noticed him looking at them and began to comment. Good thing that little beast failed. What were they thinking, letting him into the academy? I know. Why didn't the Sandaime just kill that thing when he had the chance? Naruto had heard enough. He angrily marched straight back to the classroom to collect what little he had when he was stopped by Mizuki. Mizuki told Naruto of a secret way to become a genin, steal the forbidden scroll in the Hokage's office and bring to him without getting caught. Naruto jumped at the opportunity and left for his apartment to get ready for his supposed exam. What he failed to notice was the cruel smirk on Mizuki's face as he left. Flashback end. He shook himself out of those thoughts as he set to work on learning the first jutsu on the scroll while he waited. In a nearby part of the forest, Iruka bounded toward Naruto's chakra signature in a real hurry. Damn it, Naruto! Why did you do this? He wondered. After a few more minutes, he came across the clearing Naruto was sitting in. After confronting him, Naruto told him about what Mizuki told him to do in order to become a genin. Mizuki chose that moment to show himself. Once he was sure that his true intentions were found out, he began to berate Naruto, and he skewed off on a tangent about the Kyubi no Kitsune. During his rant, he broke one of the most severe laws of the village, the law concerning the Kyubi and its vessel. The punishment for breaking the law was death on sight. He told Naruto that he was the Kyubi's vessel and therefore the Kyubi itself. Naruto! Don't listen to him! Iruka shouted. With that, Iruka and Mizuki began to fight over the scroll. Iruka had Naruto hightail it back to the village with the scroll, but Mizuki threw one of his giant shuriken at him to kill him. Iruka leapt in front of the projectile and took the blow for him. Naruto, you're not the Kyubi. I know you well enough for that. The scarred Chunin began to tell him, but the silver-haired traitor closed in to finish him off. With a sudden burst of speed, Naruto intercepted him with a fierce kick to his jaw, sending him careening back into a tree. Mizuki looked up to see Naruto, glaring at him with an almost demonic intensity. If you touch Iruka-sensei, I'll kill you! Naruto roared in an unearthly tone. Mizuki at first began to chuckle, then laughed maniacally. You! Kill me? You pathetic little demon, I'll kill you in one shot. Naruto didn't waste any time using the new jutsu he learned from the Forbidden Scroll, as he easily filled the forest clearing with hundreds of Kage Bunshin, all of them glaring at him. Mizuki stared at the orange army in fear and shock. What's wrong, team? Weren't you going to kill me? They all shouted in unison. If you won't fight, then I will. The Naruto Legion bellowed as they swooped down upon the terrified traitor and beat the ever-loving shit out of him, releasing 12 years of pent-up frustration and anger. After Naruto finished up with the traitor, Iruka called him over. Naruto, close your eyes for a moment. Naruto complied. Okay. Now open them. Naruto felt the weight on his forehead and felt it. He now had on a Konoha headband. Congratulations, Naruto. You've earned it. He told him as the pair made their way back to Hokage Tower to debrief the Hokage. The pair had failed to notice the presence of a fourth person, who had witnessed the entire affair from the edge of the clearing, hiding in a nearby tree. The pale eyes of the girl in question were glistening in the moonlight, not because of the unique nature of her eyes, but because they were wet with tears shed for the one she cared for above all else. What have we done? He should have been seen as a hero for what he has been doing throughout his life, not condemned and hated. Wait, did my father have a hand in what happened to him? Hokage Tower 0106 HRS. Iruka and Naruto made their way back to Hokage Tower and made their debrief Sarutobi. Naruto was not only granted the rank of genin, but also credited with a B-rank mission for capturing a traitor. However, Naruto was now aware of the Kyubi no Kitsune sealed within him, and he was rather upset that something this critical was kept from him. What the hell? Why didn't you tell me, old man? This stupid fox was sealed in me, damn it. Was I too stupid or something? Didn't you trust me, or were you just like the others, viewing me as a monster? Answer me. He roared, tears beginning to leak out of his eyes. He felt betrayed by one of the only people he trusted and felt safe around. Sarutobi never felt his age this badly since the Yondaime died and he had to come back out of retirement. Naruto, I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you and wanted you to lead a normal life. The Yondaime wanted you to be seen as a hero but, well, we all know how that turned out, don't we? Naruto, please try to understand. After you were born and the Kyubi was sealed into you, the people of the village, both civilian and shinobi alike, were angry and upset that they lost their loved ones and their beloved leader all in the same night. Many called for your death, and still do. That night I made a law that no one was to ever speak of the demon, or of its jailer. This was done in order to protect you and hopefully help you make some friends, but they got their kids to hate me, just like them, right? Fat lot of good that law did. First, the orphanage kicked me to the curb at 4 years old. After living on the streets for a year, you finally found me. Then, I was shoved into that crap shack that gets looted and or trashed every birthday, or whenever they were in the mood. Was all of that done to protect me, too? Naruto cried out, his tears now running as freely as his rage and sorrow. As the small blonde's rage came to its zenith, a blinding white light washed over the tower from the skies above. All of the office's occupants, both seen and unseen, raced to the roof to see what was happening. As they hit the rooftop, a beam of light shot down before them and hit the tower roof with explosive force, leaving a man-sized crater in its wake, with a person laying in the middle of it with a sword in his hand. As the small crowd drew closer, they noticed that this mysterious person had several severe injuries and was barely breathing. The man was young, easily in his early 20s, tall with bright blonde hair. He attempted to stand, but collapsed in a bloody heap. Naruto got a good look at him and noticed that this stranger looked just like him, only older and with no whiskers. Who is this guy? Why does he look just like me? He thought as he felt something flicker to life within him. Could it be? It is really him? After so long, over 700 years too long, the voice, which sounded surprisingly female and soft, said longingly, "What was that?" Naruto wondered as a stern gaze from the Hokage snapped him out of it. No one is to breathe a word of this. If word got out, spies from all corners of the world would begin to flock here and start sniffing about. I will not have that happening, is that clear? Irika merely straightened himself before answering. Of course, Hokage-sama. Naruto remained silent for a moment, then replied, sure. But don't think for a moment that we're finished, old man. I've still got more questions for you, but those can wait for now. He told the elderly shinobi with a scowl that should never have adorned his face. Both of them left the building, bound for their different destinations, while Sarutobi pondered what to do. Tora! Take him to the hospital at once. I will follow as soon as I am done here. The tiger-masked Anbu snapped a quick salute. At once, Hokage-sama. He wheeled around and loaded the blonde man onto his shoulder. OF. He didn't look that heavy, he grumbled as he shunshined off to the hospital. The old Hokage turned to the rest of his Anbu. Repair the damage and clean up the blood. Remove any evidence of what just happened. He ordered as they all set to work. Now, to get myself to the hospital. I must find out just what happened, and who that young man is and why he looks like Naruto, he thought as his gaze turned toward the Hokage monument, the Yandame's head in particular. Minato, I feel as though I have failed you. This village has all but spit on the sacrifice your son and yourself have made. I failed to make them understand and failed to protect the poor boy from this village's ignorance and hatred. Now I fear Naruto will never trust me or this village ever again. The kind, happy and smiling little boy I once knew is now gone. How can I ever make up to the lapses in judgment that cost you so dearly, Naruto? Konoha Hospital, April 13, 0400 HRS. Medic Neens and doctors alike were gathered in a single recovery room, gazing in awe at the patient that was dropped off by one of the ANBU at the Hokage's request. The mysterious young man was brought in with severe mortal wounds and was slowly dying. But a few seconds before they started to treat him, the wounds began to heal, seemingly on their own. His vitals, which were weak and erratic before, were now strong and stable, as if he were only sleeping. A scanning jutsu was used to observe how this was even possible, but the results in the end were inconclusive. They did discover that his chakra capacity was jaw-dropping. One medic commented that he'd never seen so much chakra in a person before in his life. The doctor in charge of his medical treatment had just finished briefing the Hokage, who came in a few moments ago, and ever since, he's just been sleeping peacefully, recovering. Sarutobi was carefully weighing what he was just told. His healing rate is nothing short of astounding. Only Naruto or other Jinchuriki like himself have ever healed that quickly. I must know more, he told himself inwardly. He turned to the nearest ANBU guard. Go and fetch Inoichi Yamanaka immediately. Tell him this is urgent, highly urgent. The ANBU in question snapped to attention and saluted. He then got to the task he was assigned. 30 minutes later saw Inoichi in front of the Hokage, and being briefed on the situation. Let me get this straight. You want me to take a peek in his head while he's out and see who he is and why he's here. That's about the long and short of it, yes? If you sense any hostility, pull out at once, and we will find other means. While you are in there, I've got my own suspicions to confirm. Sarutobi instructed him as he began to prepare. Inoichi pulled up a chair to the blonde stranger's bedside and used his clan signature jutsu, the stranger's mindscape. Inoichi opened his eyes to find that the jutsu was a success. He found himself in a long, dimly lit hallway, lined with heavy-looking wooden doors that seemed to stretch on forever. His mind and thoughts seemed to be fairly organized. I think that I should try a door, he mused as he twisted the knob on the first door he found, opened the door, and walked inside. Inside of the room, the decorum was like that of a meeting or planning room. There was a large wooden table surrounded by comfortable chairs. At the foot of the table sat a projector. On the wall in front of it was a white projection screen. Inoichi flipped the switch, took a seat, and began to watch what was on the reel. These must be his memories, based on the content. He watched as a beautiful, red-haired young woman, same age as his subject, came into view. But his reaction was surprise. Kekushina Uzumaki? He thought wildly for a moment, but realized that this girl was much younger than the person he was thinking of. Still, the resemblance is quite astonishing. I'd swear that she was her daughter or twin sister. Ichigo-kun. Come on, let's go. She giggled, while pulling the young man along. So, his name is Ichigo. Interesting. All of these memories must be some of his happier ones. He seems like a decent young man, the mindjutsu expert concluded as watched more of his memories. This time, he saw what the young man was capable of in battle. He fought against what seemed to be mechanical golems and strange creatures that refused to die, until he asserted himself with a little more authority. Inoichi was shocked. Ichigo had literally willed the wind around him and the water and the air to attack his enemies. Several dragons made of both elements roared to life as they launched themselves in all directions into his adversaries, ripping them apart with disturbing ease. What was that? Futon and Suiton jutsu without hand seals? It's like those elements are obeying his will, like he owns them. Amazing! Next, as if this were a showcase of his abilities, Inoichi watched as Ichigo fought with a massive degree of skill and power in taijutsu, and with a multitude of different styles, some of which he'd never seen before. The young blonde moved so quickly, he was only a blur most of the time. The projector finally came to a stop. This young man, what is he? Just how powerful is he, and where were all of these places that I saw? Suddenly a voice rang out from the doorway. Who are you? What are you doing in my head? The voice called out, sounding more puzzled than anything. The senior Yamanaka turned around to find the very person whose mind he was loitering around in. He was at a loss. It was the first time he had been mentally confronted like this, but kept himself composed. He also took the opportunity to introduce himself. I am Inoichi Yamanaka, a shinobi of Konoha, which is where you are currently, or to specific, its hospital, Ichigo-san. Whatever scrap you got into left some serious, even life-threatening wounds. But somehow, your body healed them in record time. Due to the strange circumstances of your arrival and your amazingly quick healing, the leader of our village asked me to poke around in your head for information and to determine if you were a hostile threat. You did, huh? So you saw me fight? Yes, I did. I must say that I was deeply impressed. Your level of elemental mastery over water hasn't been seen since the night aim. Your skill with taijutsu is something that our own taijutsu expert would be hard-pressed to match, especially from one so young. Ichigo looked gobsmacked. He wasn't frightened? He didn't consider him a monster like so many others did to Shina and himself? Aren't you scared? Inoichi looked incredulous. Why? You obviously don't mean us any harm. In fact, I'd like you to speak to our leader. He would more than likely offer you and your, girlfriend a place in our village. Wait, where is she? Did you see a young woman with red hair and deep green eyes? Inoichi looked regretful. No, you were the only one we found. Now, back to the question at hand. Ichigo looked downcast as the room around them melted away and revealed a war-torn city of some sort. Flashback. Ichigo stood amid the ruins of the town he and Shina had been staying. The chimeras and mech soldiers that had been hounding them since their escape from the Erebus labs had laid waste to a once peaceful German town. He had told Shina to take cover while he bought her enough time to escape. She had been injured in a previous battle and she didn't heal as fast as he did, so he hid her away. He had a strange blade that acted like a whip on hand as he began to fight back. Many of his enemies fell to his blade and his elemental powers, but more kept coming. They aren't playing around this time. The Illuminati wants us destroyed and they don't care who or what gets in their way, he growled as he finished off another chimera. Time to kick this up a notch. The weather was actually to his advantage as it was raining, giving him plenty of water to work with, and he began to sling water and wind projectiles in various shapes and sizes in all directions to thin out the numbers a bit. After an hour of non-stop fighting, he was wearing down, and his injuries were taking their toll as the Illuminati's forces closed in for the kill. No, I can't let them get her. I love her, he thought as he braced himself to use the last of his strength in a desperate last stand which probably would have killed him. From out of nowhere, a mighty roar sounded, stunning all present. Suddenly a massive fox dropped in front of the weakened Ichigo, draping some of its 9 tails around him protectively. It then blew the remaining enemy forces away with a mighty sweep of its remaining tails. Riding in the snout of the majestic beast was a young woman with flaming red hair. Ichigo Kyuin. You're alive! She cried out in relief. She vaulted down to him and hugged him for dear life. She saved me and brought me here to you, she told him, motioning to the massive fox. He looked at it with gratitude in his eyes. Thank you, Saki. You saved her life. I'm in your debt. The giant fox replied in a very gentle and, surprisingly enough, a female voice. No, I haven't even begun to repay the debt that myself and the rest of my kind owe to the two of you. I will always watch over you as a guardian and any future kits you may have, she told them with unmistakable mischievousness in her voice. You have my word on my honor, she added solemnly. He leaned in and hugged her snout with an arm still around Shina. Thank you, Kyubi. In the distance, they all heard the sound of something big approaching them from the air, followed by the sound of something large being dropped near them. Ichigo knew what it was and became alarmed. It's an N2 mine. Saki, protect her. He bellowed as he used the last of his power to erect a barrier of chakra around them. She didn't have enough time to argue, as the bomb detonated nearby. The shockwaves were upon them nearly an instant later, destroying everything in its path. The energy from the explosive device collided with the barriers that Saki and Ichigo threw up. They held firm for a moment, but then Ichigo's wavered from combat fatigue and chakra depletion. Suddenly, the two opposing forces ripped open a hole in the fabric of time and space. The vortex had begun to pull at him, and in a moment of weakness, pulled him inside. The final thing he heard was two female voices crying out, "No!" and Flashback. Inoichi sat down in one of the room's chairs in shock of what he just learned. The Kyubi, what were you doing with the Kyubi no Kitsun? Did you order it to attack us 12 years ago? He bellowed in anger. Ichigo looked at him like he grew another head. What? God, no! You just saw all of my memories. She was once just a normal, docile fox spirit when she and 8 other spirits were captured to turned into weapons. Sheena and myself were engineered to be partnered with them, as well as being weapons ourselves. We broke free with the help of 3 people who were involved with the project. They had a change of conscience and freed us. They were Gyurin Hyuga, Kyohaka Senju, who helped track and trap the spirits, and Futaba Yuhi, who had a hand in creating myself and Sheena from Norman human babies. Senju Hyuga Yuhi? What is going on here? But he can't be lying, or I'd know about it. Then Inoichi paused as realization dawned on him. All of those objects, those places and names, no doubt about it. He's actually from the Presage era. He mentally exclaimed, but then grew somber. Sadly, the people he knew and loved are all long dead. He is truly alone now, the only survivor of his kind. He concluded. Ichigo felt a mental tug. Well, looks like I should be able to regain consciousness now. We'll talk more on the other side, he told the mindjutsu expert as he gave said person a quick mental shove back into his own body. Well, time to find out just what the hell is going on here. A/N there. First chapter done. This new story is one of the reasons why I haven't really updated my other 2 stories, along with me being very busy, with my knee surgery right around the corner, and having 2 very active little boys. As always, please review. This is the reason that my other 2 stories are beginning to stagnate, because people just add me to their favorites, but not say anything. Please take a few extra seconds and tell me what you think, or if I'm doing anything wrong. Till next time. Konoha Hospital 0630 HRS April 13th. Ichigo opened his eyes groggily to see the man he was talking with only a moment ago conversing with an elderly man in white robes, and wearing a strange hat with the kanji for fire on it in red. He noticed that the conversation had to do with him, and what the man saw inside his head. They noticed that he was now awake and broke off their chat. The old man greeted him warmly. Good morning, Ichigo-kun. I am Hirozen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of this village, Konoha. I understand from Yamanaka-san that you are a long way from home, about 700 years, we've estimated. I'm sorry to say. Ichigo felt his blood freeze. Visions of Sheena's bright and loving smile flashed before his crystal blue eyes, then vanished as tears formed in them. No, this has to be a mistake, or a nightmare. This can't be happening, please God. No, he began to whimper. Sarutobi gazed at the sobbing young man in sympathy. He knew all too well what it was like to lose a mate, having lost his wife years ago. I know this must be very hard for you to bear. I know from experience, he told him softly, adding the last part at a whisper while putting a comforting hand on his shoulder. Inoichi simply gazed on in worry. He had never gone through losing his wife, and certainly didn't want to find out how much it hurt, either. After a few moments, a young nurse quietly entered the room with a small clipboard in her hands. Hokage-sama, here are the results of the blood tests you requested, she told him as she handed the results to him. The old man flipped through the results multiple times, becoming more and more alarmed by the second. Impossible, it's a complete genetic match. One could say that his blood is actually more pure, as if he were the source of the bloodline. This man is Naruto's ancestor, no wonder they look so much alike. Wait, who else has seen these results? He snapped, slightly scaring the poor young woman. Besides myself, only the lab technician, sir. She squeaked out. The elderly shinobi sighed in relief, then responded. No one is to know of these results. I want you and the same person to run a new series of tests, against his blood again, and these 2 individuals, he ordered as he inscribed the 2 people's names. Understandably, the young nurse gasped in shock. Why, you can't be serious. Yes, I am. Now go. Tell no one or the penalty is death. He told her in a stern tone, one befitting a leader, as she scrambled off. He turned to the grieving young man before him. Ichigo-kun, I have a question for you, he said aloud, getting his attention before lowering his voice. Did you and Sheena-chan get intimate at any time? Ichigo blushed and flustered for a moment, then offered a weak nod. Sarutobi began to smile. Then I have some good news for you. You have descendants, one of whom lives right here in this village and looks just like you. You mean she was pregnant with my child? Saki, she knew and protected her. Ichigo breath out, too shocked for anything else. The old Hokage started as he began to tell him about Naruto's past, warts and all. He believed that Ichigo deserved to know the whole truth. Ichigo was ecstatic with the news that he had descendants. He and Shina had children and they had kids of their own and so on and so forth. However, his face fell into a furious scowl when he was told of Naruto's treatment. When he asked why, Sarutobi told him of the Kyubi and how it attacked the village the night Naruto was born, and how it was sealed within him. Ichigo gave a dismayed sigh as he palmed his face. Even after all these years, humans still haven't gotten any more tolerant of anything different that they are, he muttered. Sarutobi winced at the acid in his tone, but remembered his abilities. Well, here, your abilities would be most welcome, and Naruto is a part of our shinobi forces now. You're asking me to join, aren't you? He asked with a slight smirk, then waved his hand dismissively. I would have asked you anyway. The old man was now grinning from ear to ear. This was like hitting pay dirt as far as force strength went. I think my day just got better, I just might find forgiveness after all. He thought as the three men went over plans to watch of the blonde-haired foxboy in question. Ichigo proposed that he get an apartment right next to Naruto's to make it easier to make initial contact with him and make continued contact less suspicious to all around him. It wasn't that Sarutobi didn't trust the vast majority of his ninja where Naruto was concerned, actually he didn't. He didn't want others knowing to make things even more complicated, not even his future teacher or teammates, or even Naruto himself until the time was right. The elderly leader learned of the young blonde's battle abilities and ties to the Kyubi through Inoichi. Sarutobi was shocked at the origin to the fearsome bijou, but he became more understanding of their seemingly violent nature after the details were explained. He wanted to try to contact the Kyubi directly and get her, yes her, reasons for attacking the village. The old man welcomed him into the village's ninja forces and commissioned him as a jounin, and gave him his headband and jounin vest. He also assigned him to an apartment right next door to Naruto to make it easier to keep tabs on the boy. Ichigo was also given a pay advance to procure any equipment, furnishings, and supplies that he might need. Inoichi still had many questions about his new young fellow blonde, like about his sword. He'd never seen anything like before in his life. So, Ichigo-kun, about that sword of yours, exactly what kind of blade is it? Oh, I call it the Viper Blade. I found it a few years ago, and it seemed natural to me. He chirped, giving him a brief demonstration by lashing out with it at a nearby tree. The blade seemed to separate and act like a whip, but it sliced cleanly through the tree like a sharp kunai through paper. Neat, huh? He said. The briefing was now over and Ichigo was anxious to go get settled into his new pad. Inoichi offered to show him around the village, to which his fellow blonde accepted. Their first stop was an outfitter, so that Ichigo could draw some basic weapons and supplies, as well as proper shinobi clothing. He stepped out of the shop actually looking the part of a konoha jounin, with a short sword strapped to his lower back with his whip blade strapped across it. He also now wore metal arm guards on his forearms with fingerless gloves. Next was a bite to eat, and then to his apartment, where Inoichi informed him that should he need anything, ask him. He was given his address and where he works. Meanwhile, back at the tower, Sarutobi sank into his chair, really feeling his age this time. His mind mulled over all that he had learned and tried to sort it all out. He now knew more about the Presage era than most, if not all historians in the village, not to mention the true origins of the bijou, and their original purpose. Just before he could close his eyes for a few minutes of sleep, the same nurse from the hospital burst into the office, gasping for breath as if she sprinted the entire distance to the tower. Here results, she wheezed as she handed him the lab results, after which he told her to sit down and catch her breath. The results didn't shock him as much as they should have. Both shared genetic markers in common with him. Inoichi did say that this Shina was the spitting image of Kushina-chan. Maybe at one point, the bloodline split off, one side forming the Namikaze and the other the Uzumaki. Both clans just got a second chance at survival. He mused before turning his attention back to the young woman. This information is top secret. Destroy all samples and records pertaining to this individual. Same rules apply. She didn't have to have that explained to her, as it was very clear as to what would happen if she divulged that information. Hi, Hokage-sama, she replied as she made her way back to the hospital to carry out her orders. Sarutobi didn't have time to relax though. The jounin senseis were due in for their team assignments any minute now. With a tired sigh, he called them in. 9 jounin filed into the spacious office, 3 of which stuck out. One was his own son, Asuma. He possessed the same beard and penchant for tobacco as his father. Also, he had at one time served the fire daimyo as a personal guard. He was slated to lead and train the new Inoshikacho trio. He accepted the assignment with an amused expression. The next was a newer jounin kunoichi by the name of Kurinai Yuhi. She accepted Team 8, a team that was to specialize in tracking and recon work. She was a moderate workaholic with a somewhat reserved personality, but she had her own reasons for wanting the Hyuga heiress on her team. Finally, there was Kakashi Hatake, son of the famous White Fang Tsukumo Hatake, as well as being known far and wide himself as the infamous Copy Ninja, or Sharingan Kakashi. He was assigned to Team 7. He had wanted to train the Uchiha survivor for some time now. The third team member, however, he was less than enthusiastic about. Naruto Uzumaki, huh? Dead last in all classes, scraping the bottom of the barrel in all skills. What a waste of time. Sarutobi eyed them with an unusual amount of scrutiny, especially Kakashi. He wondered if the cycloptic jounin had really learned from his past mistakes, or if he were only trying to run from them. I hope for Naruto's sake that he has, or this will get very ugly, very quickly. If he treats Naruto the same as the rest of the village, Ichigo is liable to make us short one more Sharingan user. He didn't look very happy when I mentioned why Naruto needed A and B bodyguards. He mused in worry. He knew that Ichigo possessed powers beyond anything that they'd ever seen, and that stomping the village flat wouldn't be much of a problem for him if they infuriated him enough, despite his live and let live demeanor. He remembered something that his own sensei, the Shodaime himself, told him once. Even a guardian angel can become a devil when provoked. Naruto's apartment complex, Ichigo's apartment 0900 HRS. Ichigo had just finished putting the last of his things away when he went out to his balcony to take in the view. He got an improvised tour of the village from Inoichi, but he still had some questions. He was about to head back in to change into some more comfortable training clothes to burn off some excess energy when he heard a yawn come from the neighboring veranda. He looked over to see, for all intents and purposes, a midget version of himself. That must be Naruto. Damn, that kid's short. Didn't they feed this kid? He thought as he observed the younger blonde. Said Shorty noticed him staring at him. Ah. What are you doing here? He yelled in surprise. Geez, kid, don't come with a volume control? He remarked, his ears still ringing a bit. He then introduced himself. The name's Ichigo Suzumiya. See ya around, kiddo. The elder blonde announced as he went back inside of his apartment. This guy's kind strange, but at least he doesn't glare at me like everyone else. He might be alright, he told himself. Naruto felt the same voice he heard the previous night come back again. It's been too long, Ichigo-kun. I've missed you so. The voice wept. The voice turned her attention to him. You can trust him, kid. He will not harm you. In fact, he might even be willing to help you, if you asked him. The voice told him in a soothing voice. Naruto didn't know what to make of this. It was all so confusing for the boy. Who are you? How do you know him? He asked intently. I am called the Kyubi no Kitsune, my child. She told him kindly. He was suddenly pulled into the depths of his mind and found himself standing before a massive barred gate with a tag on it that said seal. Beyond the bars, lurked the most massive beast he thought he'd ever see, a 30-story tall fox with 9 massive tails. Naruto was dumbstruck and awed by the sight, until he put 2 and 2 together. This thing was the reason why he was hated so much. His awe turned into anger at the realization of that fact. You, he growled at her, as he trembled in rage. Saki was not going to be denied her explanation. Naruto-kun, I must tell you my side of the story of what happened the night I was sealed away into you. I came to the village to fulfill an oath I made over 700 years ago to an ancestor of yours, an oath to protect his kits for the rest of my days. I was bound by a debt of honor to serve as your family's guardian beast. Upon approaching the village, I was ambushed and placed under a genjutsu by a man with eyes that looked like a pinwheel. The illusion caused me to fly into a rage, destroying everything in my path. I continued to rampage until I met the yondaime, who looked so much like the person I swore my oath to. I was so shocked that I paused, which gave him the opening he needed to seal me into you. She told him as softly as she could, somehow quelling his anger as she did so. As if to further reinforce what she told him, she shifted down to her human form, a somewhat tall woman with fire-red hair and crimson eyes, wearing an elegant light blue-colored kimono with honey-brown-colored maple leaves adorning it, topped off by her red fox ears and her 9 tails, swishing gracefully behind her. Naruto was stunned into silence by her new appearance. Wow, she's beautiful, he thought as he asked her what was on his mind. I'm sorry that I got mad at you. It's just that all this time, he began as tears rolled down his cheeks. Saki saw this and knew what to do for her young container. She drew him into the cage and into a gentle embrace, the kind that only a mother could offer. I know, Naruto-kun, your life has been racked with heartbreak and sorrow, with pain and loneliness that could have broken even the strongest hearts, yet yours held fast. I can't even begin to tell you how proud I am of you, my kit. She told him as she covered her small blonde host with her tails, allowing him to find some sort of reprieve. As Naruto rested in her tails, Saki fondly played with his spiky hair while thinking about all that she had learned that day. I will protect this kit, with my very soul if need be. I failed to protect your descendants before, but I will fulfill my oath by protecting this boy with all of my remaining powers, I swear it. She vowed as she too fell into a peaceful slumber. 4 days later. April 17, 0730 HRS, Naruto's apartment. Naruto had woken up grudgingly with the shrill sound of his seemingly third-hand alarm clock. He then got up, showered, and began to boil some water for his ramen. During the 3-minute wait, his mind wandered back over the past 4 days. He had gotten acquainted with his new neighbor, Ichigo, on a more casual level. He wandered into a clearing that the older blonde was training in by chance, and was awestruck by the moves, techniques, and weapon that he used. The blades separate and almost seemed as if it were alive. For a guy of his height, he was pretty graceful. He effortlessly bisected a pair training posts like paper before letting his blade come back together. A little flashy, but deadly effective. Ichigo then noticed that he was being watched. So the runt came to watch, huh? He smiled to himself. May as well put on the best damn show he's ever seen. Naruto noticed that the air around him was becoming still and parched. All water began to spin and form around the elder shinobi. He then raised his hand and the water shot out at a nearby tree, splitting it in half with a thunderous crack. It wasn't the sheer power of the jutsu that floored the young Jinchuriki, but the fact that he didn't use any hand seals to do what he did. It was as if the water was a living extension of himself, and did as he commanded. Saki watched from inside the seal. She knew that he was showing off in order to catch Naruto's attention, but was still surprised that a human in any form could wield such immense power. She knew that he wanted to train Naruto, and knew that no one else would. The short blonde was snapped out of his awe by Ichigo calling out to him. Hey there, short stuff. Like what you saw? His neighbor called out to him with a warm smile. I guess I'll see what he wants. Kid could use some kind of positive attention. How did you do that? That was awesome. Naruto exclaimed loudly. Ichigo smirked and rubbed the bridge of his nose proudly. That is a secret, little buddy. He teased. What? Come on. Can't you teach me anything? Come on. Please? He begged, turning on the puppy dog eyes. Ichigo looked at the boy incredulously for a moment, then burst out into gut-busting laughter, falling to the ground while doing so. When he recovered, he looked Naruto in the eye. When you look at me like that, how can I refuse? He told him jokingly. For the next 4 days, Naruto was practically his neighbor's shadow, hanging off of the elder blonde's every word. They went through chakra control techniques, some simple taijutsu and grappling. In return, Naruto taught him the Kage Bunshin, something that Ichigo found extremely useful. Then, the two neighbors just chatted over bowls of ramen at Ichiraku's, like they had been friends and neighbors for years. Ichigo was well received by the ramen chef and his daughter, seeing as the tall jounin had all but taken Naruto under his wing. The boy came in all scuffed up, dirty and tired, but smiling after every training session. He had learned in just those 4 days, far more than he learned in the first 3 years of the academy. All it took was a patient teacher with a sharp eye to see the boy's latent potential. Those 4 days were some of the happiest Naruto had in a long time, not to mention productive. He now had a very good friend that was also a jounin, who was willing to take the time to teach him things. Naruto had a nightmare the 3rd night, and was screaming out. Ichigo had heard him and burst into the small apartment, thinking that some stupid villager had attacked his new friend. He realized that it was only a nightmare, but still tried to calm him down. Sure, it's alright, kiddo. It's just me, the older blonde told him softly to soothe him. Inside, the Kyubi was doing the same thing. His mind was a real mess due to the nightmare, and it was affecting her as well. She held her host's mental figure tightly with her arms and tails, while trying to soothe the boy's pain. Sure, it's okay, my little kit. I won't let them hurt you. Be at ease, the fox demoness whispered in his ear while she sang him a gentle lullaby. Saki noticed that his breathing was calming down, and his body began to go slack and relaxed. The mighty demoness shed a tear at the damage the village had done to the innocent boy over the years. They have the nerve to call me a demon. They have proven themselves more like the evil monsters that they claim me to be than I could ever become, and this poor kid has paid the price for their gross ignorance. I'll watch over you while you sleep, Naruto-kun. I will make sure no more nightmares come to harm you. Naruto was taken out of his musings by the sound of his timer going off, telling him that his ramen was ready to eat. He quickly ate his breakfast, did his dishes, and left for the academy, for the final time. Konoha Academy 0800 HRS. Naruto wasted no time in getting to his soon-to-be old classroom. He was in a somewhat more cheerful mood as he moved to take his seat. Shikamaru Nara noticed his walk past him. That can't be right, he thought. Hey, Naruto. Didn't you fail the exam? Not that I mind you being here, he asked the bright blonde genin. Naruto didn't mind the question one bit. Nope. I did a makeup test and aced it, so here I am. He told the lazy Nara calmly with a smile. Shikamaru noticed a subtle change in his fellow genin. He's more calm now, collected. This will be interesting to see, he noted with a grin. Just before Naruto made it to his seat, he was stopped by an obnoxious voice calling to him. Hey, Dobe. Don't ignore me. I said, what do you think you're doing here? Kiba Inuzuka sneered at him. Naruto turned to him with an annoyed look and replied, What, you didn't hear what I told Shikamaru? I don't feel like explaining it again, so take a hike. He finished with a negligent wave of his hand while turning around. This of course enraged the temperamental Inuzuka. Don't you get fresh with me, you weakling! He roared as he bore down on Naruto. With a snap move of his arm and the lessons in grappling that Ichigo gave him, he grabbed the dog Nin's arm and threw him across the room. Before Kiba could get his bearings again, Naruto grabbed his throat and pinned him to the wall. The first thing Kiba noticed was that Naruto no longer had blue eyes anymore. They were a bloody, crimson red. The next thing was that he seemed much more powerful than he'd ever seen before. The last was his voice. Don't ever do that again. Do you understand me? He growled in an almost double voice but still calm, completely freaking out everyone in the room, especially Kiba and his dog, Akamaru. All Kiba could do was nod dumbly. He was frightened, terrified, and his partner even more so. For that brief moment, the class clown seemed inhuman, almost demonic. Across the room, a pair of pale eyes watched him with worry. Hinata Hyuga, heir to the most prestigious in the village, had a huge crush on the blonde prankster. She saw the terrifying change come over him, but she knew that he only reacted in self-defense. Naruto-kun, I wish I could tell you that I know your secret, and that I don't care. The Kyubi is the Kyubi and you are you, no matter what anyone says. Naruto finally made it to his seat, which happened to be right next to the Rookie of the Year, Sasuke Uchiha. Said Uchiha seemed to brood and sulk all the time, even though almost the entire village went out of their way to literally worship the ground he walked on, spoiling him beyond imagination. Sasuke had everything that Naruto ever wanted, but scoffs at it. The prodigy truly disgusted him, but he never let his jealousy get the better of him. Sasuke Uchiha looked over to see the dead last of his class take a seat next to him. Naruto usually went beneath his notice, labeling him as inferior like everyone else and scoffing at him. However, when he saw what happened with Kiba, he wanted to know what Naruto did, thinking that it was some kind of jutsu. He wanted that power, and no dobe would have a power that he didn't, not if he had his way. Naruto had laid his head down on the desk in front of him, trying to get a few more minutes of sleep when he heard a commotion come from the classroom door. "Ah man, now what?" he groaned to himself. Like a small stampede, two girls rushed in, homing in on the seat Naruto was currently sitting in. Sakura Haruno and her once friend now rival Ino Yamanaka were just like the rest of the village where Naruto's welfare was concerned, not concerned at all. To them, the misunderstood blonde was seen as a loser and a bad seed, one to never be friendly with or it would mean social suicide. They were told to just ignore him by the other adults, but they and some of their classmates took it upon themselves to take it just a bit further. They insulted and ridiculed him every chance they got, and Sakura even went as far as hitting and hurting him physically. They didn't think it was wrong due to the fact that none of the teachers stopped them, either did the adults who witnessed it. Just as they reached his seat, Naruto was brutally ripped from it by the pink-haired girl, with absolutely no warning. He landed hard on his left shoulder, slightly dislocating it. Naruto hissed in pain as he grabbed the injured shoulder and slammed it back into place against the wall, like Ichigo taught him to do, but didn't recommend. He bit the inside of his cheek so hard that he drew blood, but it was all he could do to keep from screaming out in pain. Inside the seal, Saki was furious at how callously her host was treated by this pink-haired harpy. The nerve of that went, she thought, while her hands and body quaked with fury. Hurting my kid just to be near that Uchiha brat. If I were able to do as I wished, I'd show them just what they're dealing with. She seethed in anger as she set to work repairing the slight tears in her vessel's shoulder tendons. As soon as the pain hit, it was gone. He made his way back to where his seat was to see Ino and Sakura still agging over who would sit there. "I'm gonna sit next to Sasuke-kun, forehead girl, and oh, I am Ino pig." Naruto had heard just about enough of their pointless arguing for his tastes. He was now officially pissed off. Kiba tested his patience, but these two wore it out. He was sitting there peacefully, not bothering anyone, and they came barging in and threw him from where he was sitting. Hell, the chair on the other side of the emo prince was empty. They could have sat there, for crying out loud. But I know they had to throw me out of my seat. I've had it, that's it, he roared mentally. On the other side of the room, Hinata had a look on her face that was concern for Naruto mixed with rage and anger for what Sakura and Ino did to said blonde. She had never felt as angry with anyone in her whole life as she was with the two fangirls in question right now. She was about to leave her seat to give them a piece of her mind, when Naruto got up and addressed the problem, personally. "Shut up. Shut the hell up," he bellowed. The terrible two had the nerve to look shocked, then angered. "What did you say, you baka?" The pinkette hollered back. "You heard me. But in case you have Kiba's hearing problem, I'll say it again, shut the hell up." He roared again, louder for good measure. "What the hell is your damage, just ripping me from my seat like that?" he added, then proceeded to rip them a new asshole apiece. Meanwhile, on a branch outside of the classroom, Ichigo sat perched on a branch that gave him a good view, but kept him hidden as well. It just wouldn't do to be caught watching over him. He nearly blew his cover when Naruto got angry the first time. But now, Naruto was angrier than before, and he sensed some of Saki's chakra leaking out. During the past week, he had been communicating with her via a shared mental link that was uninhibited by the seal. He had asked her what happened after he disappeared from their time, but she had no clue. The attack that sent him away put her into a sort of hibernation, so she couldn't tell him. He knew that he had to get Saki to pull the plug on him and fast. There was no telling what this much of her chakra in his system would do to him, and those around him. But she couldn't do it. The seal was too strong for her to have that kind of control, so she tried to calm him down. "Naruto-kun, you have to calm down. There's no telling what this much of my power in your coils will do to you. Please stop," she pleaded with her host, but to no avail. "Don't worry, Saki. I'll stop him on my end. I just hope that he'll understand," he told her sadly. Back inside, Naruto's anger was rising even higher. They thought of him as piece of garbage, an emotionless pooching bag to do with as they pleased. The Uchiha even told him that nobody cared about him. Sakura didn't help any. She just told him that a stupid, clanless orphan wasn't even fit to be breathing the same air as the Uchiha, much less the rest of them. Just a stupid, worthless orphan whose own parents didn't even want him. At that, Naruto snapped. Insulting his situation was the last straw, as he almost flew toward them. In the same instant, Ichigo intervened by flickering in between him and his targets, but sinking his fist into his gut and adding a little electricity to it, acting like a stun gun. The hit dropped him quickly as the crimson-red aura around him faded and he flopped into Ichigo's arms. He was heard saying, "I'm sorry, kid, but this is for your own good." The tall blonde jounin gently lifted the boy into his arms with a sad, remorseful look on his face. He was almost out the door when he heard one of the Uchiha fan club comment on the situation. "Ha ha ha." The dobe went and got himself arrested. Serves him right for what he said about Sasuke-kun. I hope they kill that stew. She never got to finish, as she now felt the kiss of a very sharp blade to her neck. She looked over to where the older shinobi was before, only to see Naruto resting on an unused table with the ninja in question nowhere to be found, except right behind her. "If you value your life, you will be silent," he told her, venom and fury laced into his tone. The killing intent that he was radiating was permeating the room, making it hard to breathe except for a select group of people, those who treated Naruto with some semblance of respect. "I am not here to arrest him," he told them as he resheathed his short sword. "I'm only here to bring him to Hokage-sama, as he wishes to speak with him. Then I find all of this. I must say that I am thoroughly disgusted by your actions. What happened was completely uncalled for, and you," he pointed to Sakura and Ino, "were the ones who struck first. I have no doubts that if I hadn't stopped him, you two wouldn't be breathing right now, so consider yourselves lucky. Next time, you may not be so fortunate." Ino looked indignant at the insinuation. "Ha! Sasuke-kun would have saved us. It doesn't matter how strong the baka is, Sasuke-kun will always be stronger. After all, what can some stupid orphan do anyway?" This comment really said of the normally calm blonde. He hit her with a glare that was packed to the gills with killer intent that made her collapse to her knees with fear. "You know nothing, you ignorant little girl," he growled in an inhuman-sounding tone. "You don't know," he continued, in a quieter, more pained and subdued tone. "The pain being all alone, with no one to help you, everyone hating you for something you can't help and they can't understand," he finished, hugging himself slightly, as he relived part of his past. You're just weak. Just like the dobe and the rest of this village." A cold voice sneered from the side of the room. Uchiha Sasuke stepped into the center of the room, his fangirls rallying behind him. Sakura piped up, "Sasuke-kun is right. He'll be the strongest in the village before long. After they make him Hokage, even you will bow to him." Ichigo looked at her like she grew another head, as did Shikamaru and Hinata. "Geez, listen to yourselves, do you have any idea how dumb you sound?" the lazy genius drawled. "Blind faith and ignorant devotion are both dead ends in the shinobi way of life. They started some of the worst tragedies in history." Ichigo added his knowledge into the argument. "I agree. Those traits turned a once peaceful country into a genocide machine, nearly driving an entire race in extinction. They made a religions of peace and goodwill, into fanatical and bloodthirsty mobs that murdered all those who disagreed with them. Tell me, where do you see your version leading you?" The crowd was struck dumb by his words. Even the fangirls had nothing to say that could counter that argument. Irika, who walked into the room to hear that, could only nod at the wisdom of those words. "I agree as well. Blind fanatism is foolish and very dangerous in this line of work. I've seen firsthand the kind of horrors that blind faith can give rise to." This time, Hinata added a response. "Admitting that you are in pain is not weakness, but itself a form of strength." He always felt the pain, but never surrendered to it. "I've watched him for a long time, and I know the real him. He is far stronger than I could ever hope to be." The young Hyuga spoke, pride clearly present in her tone. She looks just like Gyurin. Her eyes, face, and even her voice are the same." Sakura gave a rather unladylike snort at the statement. "Whatever. Just because you like the baka, doesn't mean she would have finished." But a pair of activated Byakugan eyes and a glowing palm mere fractions of an inch from her face silenced her. "Not one more word." Hinata spat, her words filled to the brim with barely contained fury. "I have had it with you and the rest of your kind. You fangirls really are a despicable breed. You will leave Naruto-kun alone, or you will regret it. Do not think that I am weak. I was merely holding back for fear of killing someone, but now I will not let such concerns stay my hand any longer. Do you understand?" All the Pinkette could do was nod. They had never seen the shy and timid Hyuga girl like this, so they had no clue what she would do if they tested her. Ichigo gave her a grateful look. "Thank you? This boy has been mistreated for far too long. It warmed my heart to hear you express that." He thanked her, then turned his head to Shikamaru. "You too. It's nice to see someone so young with such a level head. Gyurin, I'll protect this child of your lineage, with my very life. It seems as though she has a bit of a crush on Naruto. I'll see if I can nurse it along," he vowed mentally as he gave her a gentle smile. The similarity of this new jounin and her crush wasn't lost on the Hyuga heiress as she summoned up the nerve to ask him a question. "Ayano, who are you? I've never seen you before, but you seem to look just like Naruto-kun." It was an honest enough question, so he figured it deserved an equally honest answer. "Me? I'm his neighbor. The name's Ichigo Suzumiya." As for the resemblance, just a coincidence. Hinata seemed satisfied with that answer and introduced herself. I must apologize for my own manners. I am Hinata Hyuga. It is a pleasure to meet you, Suzumiya-san, she told him in a polite and gentle tone with a graceful bow. Shikamaru smirked a bit at this new Jounin's relaxed attitude. Shikamaru Nara here. Nice to meet you, Suzumiya-san. Iruka shared the same smirk and decided to introduce himself as well. My name is Iruka Yumino, their instructor. A pleasure, Suzumiya-san, he greeted, extending his hand for a handshake, which Ichigo took up with a smile. Ichigo chuckled warmly at the honorific. No worries, it's alright. You guys can just call me Ichigo, he told them as he hefted an unconscious Naruto into his arms. Iruka-san, could you pass on a message to whomever Naruto's Jounin-sensei might be that I have taken him to see Hokage-sama? Sure, but why? Ichigo's voice took on a serious and professional tone. Tell whomever it is that it has to do with his condition, and October 10th. Iruka caught the meaning in the message and nodded, understanding the need to see the Hokage so urgently. Right. I'll inform him or her and direct them your way. Thank you, Iruka-san. I must be going now, he answered the schoolteacher, his voice echoing as he flickered away in a burst of pure speed and leaving behind a bewildered class. Iruka cleared his throat to get the attention of the class for team assignments. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your Jounin-sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Sakura balked at the mention of Naruto being on her team. Why do I have to get saddled with the dope? That's not fair, she whined to Iruka, but he just wouldn't have it. These teams are decided upon by the Hokage himself. Would you claim to know better than him, Miss Haruno? He shot back at her in a calm yet still challenging tone, a tone that dared her to speak again. Meanwhile, still brooding in his seat, Sasuke sneered at the team makeup, a useless dope and empathetic fangirl. If you hold me back, you'll regret it, he told Sakura in a cold, seething tone. Sakura looked as though she had been slapped. But you see can't mean that, can you, Sasuke-kun? She asked him with desperation, her eyes stinging with tears, as she tried to take his arm. Sasuke roughly shoved her away like she was contagious. Don't touch me. You are nothing but a burden, so stay out of my way or else, he sneered as he raised his hand to strike her. Shikamaru had seen enough. He might not like Sakura, but she was a fellow Konoha shinobi like him, and his mother had pounded some chivalry into him. He used his Kage main jutsu to restrain Sasuke from doing anything else. Chuji followed his lead, expanding his hands and arms to trap the Uchiha. That's enough, Uchiha, the lazy Nara growled. Ino couldn't believe what these two were doing to the object of her affections as she began to berate them. What the hell are you doing to Sasuke-kun? Chuji fielded the response for this one. The same thing that Naruto would have done if he did that to you or anyone else. The large Akimichi boy answered her calmly. Ino was now floundering for answers and excuses as to why her crush would be so callous and cruel. He was just, she stammered out, but was cut off by none other than Shino Aburame. Why do you continue to make excuses for him when you know what he is really like? This is clearly not logical or rational behavior, the silent Bugnin stated in a rather clearer tone than his usual silent one. Iruka had also seen enough. Enough, he bellowed, not even using the famed big head that he normally used when reprimanding students. This told the class that he was really pissed off this time. This also caused the two longtime friends to release Sasuke. Sasuke Uchiha, what you just showed was blatant disregard for your teammates, and contempt for your fellow shinobi. If it were within my authority, I would take your headband right now and ban you from ever becoming a ninja. You will be silent, and I will hear about no more of your little temper tantrums, he growled out, getting into Sasuke's face for effect. Is that clear? He added. Sasuke simply huffed, turned on his heel, and sat in the back of the class, sulking over being yelled at. Iruka shook his head and continued on down the list. Teammate will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your Jounin-sensei will be Kurina Yehi. Hinata's face fell in disappointment. She wanted at least Naruto on her team, but she would have to make do. It would be unseemly to complain about something that was set in stone, especially after the scene Team 7 caused. Poor Naruto-kun on a team that hates him. I hope that at least the sensei is nice to him, she hoped. Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Chuji Akimichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Your Jounin-sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. That concludes the pairing for this class. I wish you all the best of luck in your new careers, he told them as he left the classroom. Ino was oddly quiet about the team makeups. On one hand, she still held her affections for the Uchiha, but when he was about to hit Sakura like he did, she was left with some serious doubts. She also remembered what Chuji told her, that Naruto would have done the same as Shikamaru did and jumped to her aid, regardless of the fact that they openly hated him. It all gave her a lot to think about. The other senseis came in and took their students away, but Team 7 sensei was still not there. Sakura kept her distance from Sasuke for the time being. She was currently worrying with herself over how to take what happened. Damn that stupid Naruto! This is all his fault, she ranted in her head. Her inner self, normally silent since she began her crush on Sasuke, began to rage back at her. Don't you dare blame this on Naruto. You've always known that Sasuke was like this, but you've always been too blind to see it. Naruto was always nice to you and everyone else until you all kicked him when he was down. That disgusted me more than the constant fawning and time you've wasted on that brooding jerk. Oh yeah? Then why did that baka flip out like he did? He had no reason to, she counter-argued until being cut off by I.S. inner Sakura. Save the excuses. You, in all your brilliance, attacked him first. You ripped him from his chair and hurt his shoulder. Then you have the nerve to throw the fact that he has no one to come home to in his face. That was low, even for you. I.S. snarled. She was the voice of reason that Sakura somehow found a way to keep on lockdown, but enough was enough. She knew that her ill opinion of Naruto didn't come from her parents, but from gossip and rumors. The presence of the Uchiha was even more of a bad influence. This new information about the whiskered blonde only further fueled her dislike for his treatment. But her vessel was too easily influenced and gullible to see the boy for who he really was. He was sad, lonely and calling out for help to a world that seems disgusted with his very existence. Her heart went out to him, it really did. But with the fangirl persona in place as the main face, there was nothing she could do but try to talk some sense into her host. Sakura was at a loss for words at the fury of her inner self, but her fangirl tendencies once again took control. So what? He's still just annoying and stupid. No wonder nobody would adopt him. Inner Sakura was speechless at the sheer cruelty of those words. How could you? She breathed. She couldn't believe what she heard, but quickly recovered. This is unforgivable. This is how you repay his kindness with cruelty. As of now, you will treat him better, and at least as a teammate, or I will make you pay. Mark me, I will make good on my threat. She snarled as she faded back into the recesses of Sakura's mind. You make me pay? Yeah, right. She snorted. Sakura had no intention of heeding the warning of her inner self. She was just too set in her ways to just change overnight, let alone eventually. She was snapped out of her thoughts by the sound to the classroom door opening and closing. She looked to the doorway to see a tall, lanky-looking jounin. Are you Team 7? He asked lazily. Sakura nodded. Aren't you one short? Where is Naruto Uzumaki? He asked them in a slightly exasperated manner. Sakura looked to Sasuke, but saw that he wasn't going to answer, so she decided to tell him what the jounin who came earlier told her to say. Kakashi-sensei? A jounin came in earlier and took him to see the Hokage. Do you know who that was? He looked nice, but he was kind of scary, and he looked almost exactly like Naruto. She trailed off as she thought about what was said. He also told me to mention something about a condition, and October 10th. Do you know what he meant by that? He asked honestly, because she had absolutely no clue what could be so important about the dead last of her class. Kakashi's only visible eye widened for a brief moment before he spoke. We'll do introductions here, then Naruto will get to do his tomorrow, he told them as they did their introductions. Predicable, at least I got the Uchiha I wanted, he thought to himself about the two genin before him. Be at training ground number 7 tomorrow at 0700 for your test. Also, you might not want to eat breakfast, or you might throw up. He told them as he flickered away to see the Hokage about Naruto. Sakura turned to Sasuke, who had already gotten up to go home. Hey, Sasuke-kun? Could I walk home with you? She asked him hopefully with a slight blush, hoping he had calmed down from earlier. The reaction she got shattered that hope. No. Go away, you pest. He muttered in a cold tone and he glared at her. As he walked away, all she could do was sink to her knees and cry. The one she idolized and placed on a pedestal was being very cruel and mean to her, just like she had been to her teammate. Just then, she felt herself dragged into the depths of her own mind. Once there, she found herself face to face with her inner self. Well, how does it feel now that what you've done to Naruto all of these years is happening to you? Inner Sakura asked her, expecting an answer. Why? Why is this happening? This is all that Baka's fault that Sasuke hates me. She screamed at her underlying ego. This again? How, pray tell, is this Naruto's fault? He wasn't even there to do anything. That other jounin, this Ichigo Suzumiya, took him to see the Hokage about something. It looked like something was wrong with him. He never acted like that before. It was so strange, she muttered. Who cares? Sasuke-kun is the only one for me. I'll never forgive that Baka for getting in the way. Inner Sakura groaned in disgust. You stubborn fine. I'll just keep letting you learn the hard way. Maybe then you'll get it in your head. Hopefully you don't lose it first. She growled as she disappeared once again into her host's subconscious. The pinkette shook her head to clear it, then made her way home. Haruno residence 1640 hours. Sakura wearily stumbled into the entryway of her house as she called out to her parents. I'm home. Her parents, Takeo and Sanai, ran a small import-export business in the village, trading wares with various different countries and towns, and were moderately successful at it. Sanai was a somewhat doting woman with a level head on her shoulders. She also had a real knack for numbers, as she handled the finances of the family and business. Her father, Takeo, was a particularly shrewd businessman with a keen eye. His flair for wheeling and dealing kept them in the black. The night of the Kyubi attack, they were just getting back into the village when all of the carnage died down. When they heard of the demon being sealed into a newborn baby and the Yandame's last wish, they knew that the fallen Hokage saw something special in the boy. They honored the final wish and even tried adopting him, but was blocked by the council from doing so, as were the few other families and clans that came forward. They could only watch as the poor boy grew up alone and unloved. With how nurturing Sanai was, it broke her heart to see it. They had a few business dealings with the boy, such as letting him help out in exchange for food or a little extra spending money. His work ethic and knack for quick thinking impressed Takeo so much that he offered Naruto a full-time job with him once he was older. But Naruto declined, saying that he already put them in danger just by being there, and he didn't to take advantage of them when they were so nice to him, so he disappeared. The only things they heard of about him were nothing but the same nasty rumors as before, and to make things worse, their daughter, Sakura, had started to spread the same vile rumors and generally make the misunderstood boy's life in school just as bad as his private life. Even worse than that, she was a fangirl of that Uchiha brat that the rest of the village was so keen on spoiling. It made Takeo's blood boil just thinking about how the Uchiha clan are the ones responsible for making sure that Naruto was never adopted, and he knew that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Sanai was of the same opinion. All that she heard about Naruto from her daughter was that he was annoying, stupid, and the dead last. She admonished her daughter for thinking that way, for not getting to know him for herself. She had hoped that Sakura would be his friend or at least be nice to him, but those hopes were dashed. Takeo had just closed up shop when he heard his daughter come in the door. "Oh, hey there, sweetie." He greeted her in his usual fashion. "Hi, Dad," she responded with a tired sigh that didn't go unnoticed by him. "So how did your day go? You got assigned to a team today, right?" he asked his daughter. "I can't believe I've got Sasuke-kun on my team." Ino Pig was so jealous, she squealed. Her father, however, was less than enthusiastic about that. He just grunted in acknowledgement, as he never really liked the brat. Every time he turned around, there was someone else lined up to kiss that little brat's ass. The rate at which he was spoiled had quickly become a nuisance. One day, the brat came into his store and expected the prices to be lowered for him, as well. Takeo didn't really jive with that idea, telling him that he wasn't special and had to pay the same as everyone else. Sasuke didn't really like being told that he couldn't have something he wanted, so he complained to the civilian council and trade commissions about him. In turn, they slapped him with fees, suits, and a few with embargoes against him. That brat nearly flushed his and his wife's hard-built business down the crapper because he didn't get his way. The only reason why his small business survived was due to the help of Tsuchiya Chiraku and the Inoshikacho trio. They started to do their business through him because they heard how he tried to help Naruto, so they decided to help him. After that, he was a firm believer in karma, that you reap what you sow. Honey? What about your other teammate? The way Sakura pulled a 180 from perky to annoyed was a bit disturbing. That dope Naruto is just a third wheel on this team. He'll only get in Sasuke-kun's way. He shouldn't even be a ninja, she would have continued on, but she was interrupted by the most unlikely person, her mother. Sanai looked absolutely furious. She had sat there and listened while her daughter repeated all of the vile rumors that were spread about the Uzumaki boy, and it ripped her heart to shreds each time. She knew the boy personally, and found him to be one of the sweetest people she'd ever known, if not a total innocent. "Sakura, that boy has done nothing to you but be kind and courteous to you and your classmates, but you constantly cut him down. I've heard of some of your more violent outbursts against him, and I must say that I am very disappointed in you. You just blindly followed along with whatever your friends hear from their parents, who have no idea who that poor boy really is. I met him once, and I must say that he is a very sweet and kind boy." Sakura was struck dumb. Her mother had berated her for her treatment of the dobe, again. It took her a moment to get her bearings before she tried to mount a defense. "But Sasuke-kun is the rookie of the year, from a famous and wealthy clan, skilled, handsome, and the village loves him, while that baka is dumb, dead last, and a worthless and poor orphan whose parents didn't even want him." She started to rant, but didn't realize that her mouth would get her into so much trouble as she was slapped. "Can you hear yourself, my dear? What has the Uchiha done that was so great? The only reason why he is so skilled is because he has teachers and others bending over backwards and tripping over themselves to help him, while the Uzumaki has had to learn everything on his own with no one to help him." Her father spoke this time. After this discussion wound down and they ate dinner, Sakura took a bath and headed for bed. As she let her consciousness slip, inner Sakura took the opportunity to speak with her. "Now do you see? Even Mom and Dad told you to be nicer to him. They know more about him than you do and you see him every day," she admonished. Sakura wasn't in a very good mood from being scolded by her parents. "Shut up. This is that baka's fault. He got me yelled at by my parents. UGGH, God, you are so dense. I'm ashamed to be a part of you," she sighed in disgust. Naruto baka, she grumbled in her sleep as her parents listened in. "I can't believe that this village's blind hatred has gotten to our little girl," Sanai whispered while she hugged herself. "What can we do?" Her husband placed a hand on her shoulder. "I don't know. The most we can do is wait and pray that this is just a phase she's going through. If this continues on, I don't know what we can do." Naruto's apartment, 1720 hours. Ichigo got Naruto into his apartment, laid him down on his bed, and went home. He couldn't believe how callously the boy was treated by his peers. The hatred their parents had for him had infected their children, as well. It was the same intolerance that he and Sheena had to contend with in the past, and he didn't like it. Not one bit. He thought back to an hour ago, when he met with Naruto's Jounin sensei, Kakashi Hatake. He had heard of his reputation as an outstanding shinobi, but from what he saw of the records from when his A and BU team took up guarding Naruto, he held a deep dislike for the famous copynin. Flashback. 1 hour ago in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi and Ichigo had just gotten through going over some records on a certain team's mission. Said mission was for an A and BU squad to watch over and protect Naruto, but their performance was pitiful and reeked of foul play. It seemed like Naruto was led into ambushes and they sat there and did nothing. Inoichi had been called in to check on Naruto's mental state, and after a brief jog through Naruto's memories he was satisfied. However, he was highly upset when he came out. Ichigo asked him what was wrong and Inoichi told him about what his daughter had done. Again, they continued to discuss what happened after Ichigo knocked Naruto out when Kakashi walked into the office. "What's wrong with Naruto?" he asked in an annoyed voice. The eyes of the 3 other men in the room hardened at his tone. He was assaulted by his peers, and in turn provoked the Kyubi into responding. Ichigo spoke out in a low growl. He spun around and looked Kakashi in the eye, studying him carefully. Kakashi finally got annoyed. "What?" Ichigo backed off and began to pace in front of him. "I read your file, Kakashi. Genin at 6, Chunin at 10, Jounin at 12, and ANBU captain at 14. Very impressive." He noted idly. "I'm not following what Naruto's condition has to do with me." "Hold on, I'm getting to that. I have the files and reports on a certain mission your team and yourself had in UNBU days right here. To guard a certain boy Naruto here. Surely, an elite ninja such as yourself should have been able to thwart some attacks on the boy by civilians and lower-level chunins, right?" he added, waving the file folder in front of him. This made the copynin's visible eye go wide with shock. It was like being on a board of inquiry. This Jounin he had never seen before was grilling him on the Naruto protection missions. "Wow," he stammered out before being cut off by a harsh gesture by Ichigo. "Who I am is not important right now and should be the least of your concerns. As for how? Hokage-sama was kind enough to allow me time and access to purist these documents." "How very interesting," he quipped, fitting the copynin with a gimlet eye. "It seems as though your team actually led the boy into ambushes and watched while the beatings happened. They stopped the assailants just short of killing him as to not bring the Hokage's wrath down upon themselves. Where were you when all of this happened?" Kakashi knew then, and there he was caught. "I was at the memorial stone," he uttered. He now realized that he made a grave mistake, one that should not have happened, and Naruto had to pay the price for it. Ichigo knew from his file why he would be there. "Your teammates Rin and Obito, right?" he asked in a more understanding tone. Kakashi's head bowed further. "Yeah," Ichigo sighed. "I understand the pain of your loss, but to allow it to hamper your performance so badly that an innocent boy has been all but tortured to death on your watch is completely unacceptable. This lapse in judgment nearly cost that boy his life and betrayed the trust Hokage-sama and the Yondaime placed in you. He trusted you, his remaining student, to watch over this boy and you betrayed him." He scowled at Kakashi. This served to raise Kakashi's ire. "What do you know about pain?" he snarled at the tall blonde. "You're just an outsider who fell into Hokage-sama's good graces. You know nothing of the pain and suffering." Sarutobi had heard enough. "Hatake, enough!" the elderly Hokage barked out, seething with anger at the insolence of the copy ninja. "This young man knows more about pain and suffering than anyone save Naruto. His entire world was ripped from him, as well as his wife and children. Furthermore, he did not fall into my good graces. Do not insult me in such a manner ever again. I have known this young man for many years and is a person that I trust completely. He has acted as thus out of concern for Naruto, which very few have ever done, to my eternal shame." Kakashi had never seen the Sandaime this angry since the night of the Kyubi attack, when the council tried to execute Naruto. He felt that discretion was the better part of valor, and swallowed his rage. "Hokage-sama, I apologize for my outburst. I was out of line with my comments." "Good day, sir," he said curtly as he walked towards the door. He paused for a moment as he opened the door. "Tell Naruto to come to training ground 7 at 0600 tomorrow morning," he told Ichigo, then walked out the door. As he left, all 3 men let out a collective sigh. Ichigo shook his head. "This isn't gonna go over very well, is it?" he muttered. Inoichi nodded and agreed with him. "I know, but it had to be have had it far worse than him, but took it much better. Take you and Naruto for examples." He, however, continuously skips out on his counseling sessions. Sarutobi cleared his throat to get their attention. "I believe we should see to Naruto and the status of the seal." Ichigo, he turned toward the younger blonde. "Yes, sir," he replied with crisp professionalism. "I would like you to test the state of the seal with Inoichi. In short, you'll be going in with him as an insurance policy against the Kyubi." He nodded. "I'll get to see Saki again," he thought gleefully as Inoichi made his preparations for his mind jutsu. After a moment, they were ready. With a nod toward each other, they jumped into the seal. They landed in front of the massive gate that was the demon's prison. They saw Naruto lying on a sort of red furry pillow just inside the gate. They made a move toward him, but a blast of energy forced them back. They heard growling coming from inside the bars and they looked up to see the mighty Kyubi no Kitsune herself glowering down at them. Ichigo knew he had nothing to fear and he calmed down Inoichi as he walked up to the demoness calmly. Saki, it's me, Ichigo. The demoness stopped growling almost instantly, and it began to glow and shrink. The glow died down to reveal a very beautiful woman with crimson hair and eyes, with 9 tails and red fox ears, who was smiling sadly at him. Ichigo-kun, good, she sighed in relief. I really don't know what would have happened if you hadn't put a stop to what was happening. That much demonic chakra in him at one time could have killed him, she mentioned. I'm just glad that we stopped him before he did something he would have regretted. I'll just work with him on his anger, Ichigo said before Inoichi interjected. If you want, you could send him to me for counseling sessions. I told you before that I'm also a therapist and I am better suited for these sorts of things. He reasoned. Ichigo and Saki thought it over for a moment and nodded in agreement. All right, Ichigo replied as they went over the finer details. Soon, they left the seal. The blonde duo relayed the decision to Sarutobi and set up the first session to be in a week. After that, Ichigo picked up Naruto and took him home. Flashback and Ichigo looked back down at his last living descendant and sighed. This village is a real messed up place, you know that, kiddo? He muttered as he stood up, made a note for Naruto, telling him about the next day, what he had to do, the counseling sessions and that if he had any questions, just come on over and he'll explain if he could. April 18th, Naruto's apartment 0515 HRS. Naruto woke up slowly and held his gut in his hands. He felt like somebody rammed an electrified battering ram into his gut as he got up and read the note that was left for him. It explained what he had to do and why he did it, along with what his new sensei had in store for him. He wanted to question the taller blonde about it, but he was gone already. The note on the door saying that he had a patrol mission that morning and he would be back later that day. Sighing, he showered up and ran off to the specified training ground to meet his team. Little did he know that he was in for one hell of a day, again. Training ground number 70555 HRS. Naruto stumbled into the training area with a few minutes to spare when he spotted 2 other people there. They might be my new teammates, he thought excitedly as he ran over to them. However, his euphoria died almost instantly as he saw who his teammates were. His sentiments were mirrored by his new teammates, Sakura and Sasuke, who felt that his mere presence was an annoyance and a burden, an unwanted one. Sasuke believed that Naruto wasn't worthy of breathing the same air as him and Sakura just followed along blindly. Those two deserve each other. He thought sourly as he sat down and went through a meditation exercise that Ichigo taught to him to teach him focus and was trying to ignore the glares that they sent his way. They ended up waiting for 3 hours until an explosion of smoke signified the arrival of their sensei. You're late, Sakura yelled at him. Kakashi at least had the decency to look sheepish. Sorry about that. I just got lost of the road of life, he told them. What a load of crap, Naruto thought as he brought himself out of his meditative state and back to reality. Kakashi noticed him sitting in the lotus position and was taking in the genin before him until Naruto spoke up first. What? You must be Naruto Uzumaki, the 3rd member of this team. He spoke out loud. We already did introductions yesterday while you were talking with Hokage-sama, but if you want, you can do yours now. Naruto looked around and could already guess that they really wouldn't care, but he sighed and introduced himself anyway. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, training, and hanging out with my new neighbor, who teaches me all kinds of neat things and is actually nice to me. I don't like short-sighted and closed-minded people, arrogance, and people who look down on others for reasons beyond their control. My dream is to become the strongest shinobi I can be, showing everyone that I'm worth something and to make my new friend proud. Sasuke and Sakura had just blown him off and Kakashi had his nose buried in his smut book. Naruto couldn't believe how rude they were. Hello? He called out loudly. Kakashi snapped out of his Reading, Ohio. You're done? Good, now we can get to the test, he said, pulling out 2 bells. He explained that they had to get the bells from him by any means necessary. They had until noon to get them and the one who didn't get a bell would be tied to a stump and not be given any lunch. Naruto was about to launch himself at Kakashi, but held back, remembering what Ichigo told him of studying his opponents carefully. As Kakashi told them to start, Sasuke and Sakura hid, but Naruto stayed and surveyed the copy carefully. You know, Naruto, most people would hide to do what you're doing, he commented. Yeah, and? I'm not most people, I'm me, no one else. Didn't you hear me earlier? Was his reply. Well? Don't you want the bells? He taunted. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, but I'm not stupid enough to attack you without a plan. Well, you'd better come up with one quick then. Naruto gave him an almost evil smile. Who's to say I don't already have one? He countered. Kakashi really didn't like what he was seeing, so he took the initiative and attacked. His attack hit home, but Naruto just poofed out of existence. Kakashi was shocked. Kage Bunshin? How? He gasped inwardly. A scant second later, scores of clones popped out of the ground under him like demented daisies, latching onto the jounin to slow him down so that the real Naruto could sneak in and grab a bell. He silently thanked Ichigo for teaching him to be patient and use his head for once. Unfortunately, Kakashi was a jounin for a reason, as he quickly figured out what Naruto had planned. He seeped into the ground to shake off the clones that had latched on and popped out elsewhere. Then he began to slaughter the clones wholesale. Despite how well he learned from Ichigo during the past week, he could only improve so much. His taijutsu was pathetic compared to that of the Jounins, but he kept at it. After a few minutes, Kakashi finally scored a solid hit to the head and took Naruto down, hard. Kakashi now turned his attention to the other two genin and began to stalk them. Sasuke watched the whole affair with a jealous gaze. Those were solid clones, not just illusions. How the hell did that idiot weakling get such a jutsu and not me? He seethed with anger. In the meantime, Naruto stirred and began to recover. Oh, that really hurt. He commented. Of course that hurt, he's a jounin. Naruto-kun, I think that the key to this test is teamwork. I know that you won't like it, but try to at least give it a shot. Saki advised. Naruto thought for a moment, then nodded. Alright, I'll try, but just for the record, they're more likely to attack me than cooperate, he replied as he brought himself back to the real world. In the distance, he heard a scream that he knew was Sakura, so he headed there first. When he reached her, he made some shadow clones to scout around for Kakashi, and keep him at bay if it came down to it. He felt a faint chakra residue around her that he recognized as the aftermath of a genjutsu. He concentrated a bit of chakra into a ram's seal and barked out Ki. As he broke the genjutsu the pink-haired girl was under. She stirred and woke up. Sasuke-kun? She asked groggily until the world came into focus and she saw the golden-haired boy, Naruto Baka. She yelled that she threw a punch at him, just for him to deflect it away from him and throw her off balance. So this is how you thank me for releasing you from that genjutsu. I wanted to ask you and Sasuke if you guys wanted to team up on Kakashi-sensei and work together to get the bells. Ha! As if we would lower ourselves to working with the dough. She sneered at him. The object of this test is teamwork. You should have figured that out by now. He's trying to divide us and make us work against each other, he tried to tell her. But she wasn't listening. Shut up, Naruto. Me and Sasuke-kun are gonna pass, and you are going back to the academy. She hollered as she ran off to find Sasuke. Damn it, he muttered. They just won't listen to me. He added as he got up to find Sasuke. As luck would have it, one of his patrolling clones had stumbled upon the emo jerk no more than 300 yards away from him, and Kakashi was nowhere in the immediate area. When he got to Sasuke, unburied him and brought Sakura back around for a second time, he ran his teamwork idea by him just to have it sneered at. Why should I work with losers like the two of you? He told them coldly, mainly glaring at Sakura. Naruto sighed and shook his head. At least I tried. He commented to no one in particular, as he calmly walked off toward the clearing to try and draw Kakashi out. Sarutobi was watching the whole thing from his crystal ball in his office and was not impressed with Team 7. Naruto, the dead last, figured out the meaning behind the test and tried to cooperate with his teammates. But they blew him off, Sasuke because of his arrogance and pride, and Sakura just following along blindly. This is already starting to look like the team that I taught, the Sannin, and not for the better. The old Hokage thought darkly as he remembered how the Sannin turned out. Back at the training grounds, a jounin with similar sentiments was watching the drama unfold. Those brats haven't learned their lesson yet, he growled in his mind as he focused on the rest of the exam. The allotted time had elapsed, and the genin assembled in front of Kakashi. He chastised Naruto for fighting him solo, but not the Uchiha. He criticized him for not cooperating with Sasuke and Sakura, not the other way around. Naruto was tied to a post in the middle of the field and was forced to watch the others eat while Kakashi walked off somewhere. But he told them that Naruto was not to be fed or they would fail. Sakura sat there in front of a hungry Naruto, gingerly eating her lunch when she heard Naruto's stomach grumble loudly and saw him grimace. Inner Sakura took the opportunity to speak to her. That didn't sound good. It sounded like he hadn't eaten in a while, never mind breakfast. She commented, whatever. I'm not failing just because that loser can't afford to eat properly. Fangirl Sakura countered. Inner Sakura seethed with anger but thought of something. Hey, come here, she said, pulling in and temporarily restraining her annoying main ego and gaining control. Naruto noticed that Sakura got up, looked around and held up a piece of her shrimp to Naruto for him to eat something. Sasuke saw this and lashed out. Don't feed him. I'm not going to fail just because of that dough. We need him to have more energy if we're going to stand a chance against Kakashi-sensei. We can't do it alone. She countered. Sasuke thought for a moment, and relented. Fine. Here. He spat, thrusting the food into his face. As he did that, Kakashi appeared in front of them, telling them that they passed the test and gave Sasuke the credit for figuring it out. Both Inner Sakura and Ichigo had similar thoughts. That bastard. He's taking all the credit for something he didn't do. Naruto was confused by Sakura's actions. First she treated him like a plague, but then she feeds him and helps him out. Saki, however, he a good idea of what just happened. That girl, she has a split personality. One that doesn't seem to mind the kid and doesn't like that Uchiha all that much, she deduced. Kakashi had just wrapped up his little speech by telling them when and where to meet and dubbed them Team 7. He then poofed away to parts unknown, leaving Naruto tied to the post. Sasuke got up and got in Sakura's face, just as Inner Sakura lost control and the fangirl persona took over again. You stupid girl, you nearly cost me my chance to avenge my family, he snarled as he raised his hand to slap her. Suddenly, a jet of water from the nearly creek shot out and nailed the raven-haired boy just before the blow struck. Sakura looked around to see the source of the jutsu, just to see the jounin from yesterday with his gloved hand held out and glaring at the stunned Uchiha. What the hell do you think you're doing? He growled as he walked toward the stump that Naruto was tied to and snapped his fingers. As he did that, the ropes looked like they were slashed with an invisible knife and fell away to free the young blonde boy. This got everyone's attention. He used the jutsu without hand seals. I must have that ability. Sasuke clamored. Hey, you teach me that. Teach you what? How you did that? You used the jutsu without hand seals or even thinking about it. I must have that power, he demanded. I can't teach anybody to wield this power, and even if I could, I wouldn't teach someone who would strike and abandon his teammates in cold blood, he stated simply, but with an edge to his tone. This got Sasuke's dander up and his pride stung. I said teach me. He roared as he struck out at the tall blonde jounin, just to be caught by his throat and lifted higher. Bad idea, kid, he muttered. Sakura snapped out of his daze just in time to plead for Sasuke. Don't hurt Sasuke-kun. Please don't. He didn't mean it. Ichigo was dumbfounded. This guy was ready to deck her, but she still pleads for him. This is sick. He dropped Sasuke, but the boy wasn't finished yet. He ran through hand seals and called out his jutsu. Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu. He barked out as he spat a huge fireball at the tall man. He was about to dodge, but he noticed that Naruto and Sakura were still behind him. Damn, he growled. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a shield of water around them to protect them from the blazing heat. As the fireball died down, he vanished from view and appeared behind the wannabe Avenger with his short blade drawn across his throat. You could have killed your teammates, you little bastard. He snarled in a calm, yet still fierce manner. Sakura was again stunned by what this odd man had accomplished. No hand seals or wind-up, just execution. Who is he? Naruto had a different frame of mind. He had seen Ichigo do this before, but it still amazed him every time he saw it. Thanks for the save, Ichigo-san. Ichigo nodded and swiftly knocked out the boy and picked him up by the collar of his shirt. You two go home. I'm taking him to your sensei for a little chat, he ordered them in a tone that demanded compliance. They nodded as he vanished in a swirl of water, taking their violent teammate with him. Naruto turned and began to walk home until Sakura stopped him. Naruto, do you know him or something? Naruto paused and thought for a moment. Yeah. He's my next-door neighbor. He moved in a week ago, but he's actually kinda cool to hang around with. He likes to teach me stuff, basic stuff like meditation, some basic grappling and taijutsu and a little chakra control. Every day, after kicking my butt into shape, he treats me to some ramen at Ichiraku's. He's a real nice guy and wouldn't hurt anyone without a good reason, he replied, obviously proud to know him. He continued on his way home. The pink-haired girl just stood in silence for a moment before moving. Sasuke's actions gave her more to think about. This was the second time he nearly hit her intentionally, and now he nearly killed her. She decided to just put it out of her mind as she trudged home. Memorial Stone 1437 hours. Ichigo arrived at the Memorial Stone with a burst of water announcing it. He spotted Kakashi reading his orange smut book while looking at the stone and walked up to him. I thought I'd find you here, Hatake. He called out in a neutral tone that made Kakashi turn around. Ichigo dropped Sasuke on the ground roughly with the copying and get slightly angry that someone manhandled one of his students. He was about to berate the slightly taller blonde man, but said blonde beat him to it. He attacked his teammates with a fire jutsu, stating that they nearly cost him his chance at revenge. He saw that Kakashi was hardly paying any attention to him, then added in that Sakura and Naruto were hurt to test his reaction, to which there was none. He was only concerned with Sasuke's well-being as he got mad at him for hurting the Uchiha prodigy. I only knocked him unconscious and brought him here to you, the sensei, for punishment. Just leave him to me and go. My team doesn't concern you, he replied coldly as he picked up the brooding jackass and flickered away to the hospital. He doesn't even care for his other students as long as he had that Uchiha brat, that bastard, he snarled in rage, but quickly calmed down and went back into town to grab some sake. I'll need it. T Street, downtown Konoha 1527 hours. Anko Mitarashi had just slammed down her third bottle of sake as she gasped. Ah ha ha! That hit the spot. She whooped as she reached for another stick of dango. Across the bar, a somewhat intoxicated man sauntered up to her at the bar. Hey babe. He drawled drunkenly. Anko tried her best to ignore the man, but his sake breath and lack of personal hygiene made that kind of hard to do as he kept pestering her. Oh come on, don't you wanna have a drink with me? She snarled, her patience at its end. He attempted to reach out and glomp her, but a hand shot out and clamped down on his shoulder, hard, making his knees buckle. A tall blonde man made his presence known. Move, was his simple statement, but his gaze was packed with killer intent, causing the man to sober up almost instantly while pissing himself. The man scrambled back to the corner he crawled out of while Ichigo took a seat at the bar next to her. She studied him for a moment. She noted that he looked similar to the fourth, damn similar, but brushed that aside for now as she spoke to him. I could have handled that. He merely shrugged and replied, he was in my way and I wanted a drink. She smirked at his response. Very blunt and to the point. I like that, and the way he made that guy piss himself just by looking at him was priceless. Never seen you around before. Name's Anko. Anko Midarashi. What's yours? He studied her for a moment, and replied. Ichigo Suzumiya. I just got here last week. He answered her simply as he ordered some sake and pork dumplings for himself. The snake mistress eyed his hardware, a ninjato of some kind in a kodachi? He's a kenjutsu user, I'd say, but his build is more like a taijutsu user. Might as well talk some more. He seems interesting. She reasoned. So, where did you come from? Nowhere really. Just wandered here and there, picking up things as I went along. I finally wound up here and applied for a shinobi position, and got the rank of jounin. The old man asked me to look after a kid named Naruto. This got Anko's attention. She was a member of one of Naruto's protection squads, and she grew kind of attached to the little runt. He was just like her, shunned and hated, except people were trying to kill him. She always got on edge whenever his well-being was brought into a conversation. She decided to listen a little more before deciding what to do. Ichigo sighed loudly. Can't tell her the truth, he reasoned, but thought of a way around it. Poor kid. I know exactly what he is, but that's no excuse to treat him the way he was treated. It reminded me of myself when I was younger. I was treated like a freak because of my unusual abilities. He mentioned, his expression crestfallen and hazed with pain. I know who you're talking about. I used to be a member of his protection detail some years back. Even when I was hidden, he could still find me and wave at me. Once, he even brought me a flower to say thank you for being nice to him. He's a pretty sweet kid. She chuckled as she recalled those times, as well as the times she rocked him to sleep when he had his nightmares. Ichigo chuckled a bit himself, and he drained a bit of the sake from his recently served bottle. Yeah, he's a pretty cool kid. He spotted me training one day and threw these puppy dog eyes at me, asking me to teach him something. He laughed, but continued. I taught him some basic grappling, meditation, and chakra control exercises. I swear that kid soaked that stuff up like a sponge. I was shocked to find out that he was the dead last in his class, but that set off a red flag to me. If he were that fast a learner, what the hell has the academy been doing with him? Anko couldn't help but wonder herself. She knew that they tried to bar him from entering the academy, but she never thought that they would stoop so low as to sabotage his education. Those bastards, they sabotaged his training. She concluded. Bingo. He's graduated from there now and on a team, but the sensei leaves a lot to be desired. Who's the sensei? Kakashi Hatake? Anko froze as she heard that name. She remembered how it was Kakashi's A and BU team that relieved hers, and that was when the attack started again. As if that wasn't bad enough, now that cycloptic bastard is his jounin sensei? She thought. What about his team? She asked, almost afraid of his answer. Some fangirl named Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Anko let a small growl escape her throat. She had caught many Uchiha trying to harm Naruto, and now he had one on his team. Top that off with an Uchiha fangirl and that asshole who let him get beaten and almost killed, and you've got a recipe for disaster. This wasn't missed by Ichigo as he gulped down a pork dumpling. Yeah. That's how I feel. That little turd tried to fry Naruto while Kakashi left him tied to a post earlier. I cut him free, knocked out the Uchiha and brought him to Kakashi for some justice. But what does he do? He lets the bread off easy, right? Ichigo smirked. He liked her. She was sharp as a razor, and she was just as protective of Naruto as he was, so that made her okay in his book. Right. I was so pissed off that I came here to cool down. He related to her as he continued to chow down on his food. The two made small talk and talked shop for a bit. He learned a bit about her. She was a Tokubetsu jounin, 24 years old, the same as him, and this bar was a favorite haunt of hers. He gathered that she had a rather sordid past, so he let it slide. Everyone has a secret or two. It was beginning to get late and Ichigo was getting worried about Naruto. I'd better get going. I'll see you around sometime, Anko. Sure thing. See you later, Ichigo. Goodbye, said. The tall man left the bar and headed for home. Just as he left, one of her friends, Kurina Yuhi, came walking into the bar. Hey, Anko. The crimson-eyed Kunoichi called out. Ah. Kure-chan. She greeted enthusiastically. So, how is it leading a group of brats so far? Kurina heaved out a tired and haggard sigh. One's almost a mute, one is a total horndog, and the Kunoichi is the most timid little thing I've ever met. If it weren't for the eyes, I'd swear she wasn't a Hyuga. Wow. Sounds like a real dream team you've got there. Anko quipped playfully. Kurina wanted to change gears. So, who was that guy you were talking with? Anko sighed and looked around before answering. She was sure that she could trust Kurina with this information. You remember how I was part of the Uzumaki Kids guard team, right? Kurina was stunned by the serious tone Anko was using, but she nodded as she remembered. He was assigned to protect the kid, and from the looks of the team Naruto was dealt, he's gonna have his work cut out for him. Kurina shuddered as she remembered when that received their team assignments. Kakashi is his jounin sensei, the same Kakashi that nearly let Naruto be killed on his watch several times. Then there was that Uchiha boy and his fangirl of a teammate. This only compounded Naruto's problems. She had a sinking feeling that Kakashi was going to make the same mistake that the Sandame made with his own team. She had studied on how to be a sensei and read up on the Sandame's team and heard about it from Asuma, how the old Hokage still blames himself for how the team ended up. He favored Orochimaru over his other students because he was a genius. It looked like Kakashi was going to repeat that mistake. Those three will be a serious problem. He made contact with him and is trying to teach him some things because he knows that Kakashi won't teach him squat. That Uchiha kid will get jealous of every little thing and that Haruno girl will be like his personal cheerleader, making things worse. Anko confided in her friend, in an almost desperate tone. Kurenai knew that her friend was attached to the Uzumaki boy to an extent, almost like a sibling. Kurenai watched the boy one day and saw the kind of treatment he endured. It sickened her to say the least, but she was shocked to see that he let it all slide right off of him, putting up a strong front to show them that they weren't getting to him. She was also hoping that she would get him on her team, but it didn't pan out that way. She also disliked Kakashi for a few reasons of her own. He read that smut book unabashedly in public, was tardy to everything and just seemed lazy. The two kunoichi just sat and talked for a while like they usually did, then parted ways. Before hitting the hay for the night, she wished Ichigo luck that he would most definitely need, and wished for Naruto's safety. She couldn't figure out when it happened or how, but that little blonde ball of mischief and energy had wormed his way into her heart. Time skip August 19th. 3 months had come and gone since Ichigo arrived and began his watch over the young Jinchuriki. Things with Team 7 were exasperating at best. The usual routine was that Kakashi would have them perform a mission then disappear for the day, and the cycle would repeat itself. He continued to give Naruto a helping hand in secret, teaching him helpful little taijutsu tricks or helping him with his control. He started to do this more regularly when he found that Kakashi was giving Sasuke special training and attention. He felt uneasy when he thought about how Naruto would be if he hadn't come when he did, but pushed it aside. Naruto asked him if he could include Sakura in on the training, but the pink-haired girl refused, opting to instead watch the Uchiha train and fawn over him. Ichigo shook his head in exasperation. Naruto, remember this, you tried to help your teammate, but she refused to be helped. If she gets hurt because she wants to play damsel in distress, it won't be your fault, he told him seriously. Ichigo and Anko had started to hang out and became good friends. He needed a friendly face his own age and she needed another solid friend outside of her job besides Kurenai and Ibiki. He found himself somewhat attracted to her straightforwardness and honesty, as well as a good sense of humor. In all honesty, Anko reminded him of his Shina so much that it hurt. He felt like he was betraying her somehow. She liked his humor and good nature, including the time he pranked Kakashi's team by transforming into Kakashi wearing one of Guy's suits that was a little too small for him in the crotch area, screaming about youth and making them run right through the middle of the village right behind him. They still, however, wouldn't tell each other the whole truth. He got acquainted with Kurenai and Asuma through her, and gained a few more friends. Through Kurenai, he met Team 8 and its members. His first impression of Kiba was that he was just a normal boy his age mentality-wise, if not a bit of a horndog. Shino was so silent that it was easy to forget he was even there. Hinata had already met him before, but she was always very shy and had trouble speaking her mind. This concerned him a bit, as it just wasn't normal for a girl so young to be so subdued. Even on the surface, he could tell that something was very wrong. One day, he asked Kurenai about her family and the crimson-eyed Kunoichi sighed heavily, confirming Ichigo's suspicions about a bad home life. She told him about how Heishi Hyuga, her father, had all but abandoned her as clan heir, giving the position to her younger sister, Hanabi. The politics of the clan were somewhat complex, but that still did not excuse what had been done to the girl's confidence. However, he was now more dedicated than ever to repaying his debt to Guren, one of the people who set him free. After one of Team 8's training days were over, he walked up to the Hyuga heir. "Oh, Hinata-chan. Pleasure to see you this fine afternoon," he called to her cordially. Said girl squeaked in surprise, but she turned and bowed politely. Hello, Ichigo-san. She stuttered shyly. How are you today? Oh, I'm doing alright. Say, would you mind talking a small stroll with me through the village? I can tell something's bothering you, and maybe I can help? She looked dubiously at the offer, but decided that it couldn't hurt. He seemed friendly, and she might get some good advice. Oh, okay, she replied as they made their way down T Street, the hub of commerce in the village. He remembered from a conversation with Kurenai that she loved cinnamon rolls, so he casually steered them toward a bakery. He sniffed the air innocently. Smells nice. Hold on a moment, Hina-chan, she asked her, as he bolted inside. A moment later he came back out with 2 rolls, one for him and one for her, directing her to a bench nearby. Now, would you mind telling me? Hinata sighed, sucked in a deep breath, and began to spill some of her story, like how she is treated at home and her life in general. Afterwards, she looked tired and older, more so than any child her age should be. Ichigo mulled over what he learned as he munched on his roll, aside from the fact that he wished he had some milk to go with it. So instead of facing the facts and acting like a father, he just dumps the blame for all his troubles on her. That pompous ass, he thought darkly, but remembered that the girl had a crush on his descendant. He talked to her about it, and learned that she stayed her own hand out of fear of her father, and watched Naruto from a distance. He encouraged the young girl to tell Naruto of her feelings, even just a little at first. Over the course of 3 months, Shin started to let herself be known to him little by little. A conversation here, an Ichiraka trip there, all with Ichigo watching over them to make sure that nothing bad happened. Hinata's teammate, Kiba Inuzuka, saw what was going on and was quite unhappy with it. He felt that Hinata belonged to him, and had become somewhat possessive over her. He saw them eating out at Ichiraka's one day and decided to go and break it up, along with Naruto's nose while he was at it. As he was stomping down the street with a certain blonde on his hit list, he failed to notice that his sensei was watching the pair as well from across the street. Kurenai knew from the jealous look on Kiba's face what his intentions were. "Kiba. Stop right there," she called out. The Inuzuka boy froze when he heard her voice, but kept his fear of her hidden as he turned around. "What is it, Kurenai-sensei?" he asked her, trying to stay civil. "Where do you think you're going? Certainly not to break up an outing between friends over at Ichiraka's? You're damn right I am. That stupid dobe has no right to be around Hinata like that. She belongs to me," he snarled, forgetting just who he was talking to. Kurenai couldn't believe what he just said. It was one of the most chauvinistic things she'd ever heard, and she refused to hear anymore. But she did something that surprised even herself. She slapped the boy. "Kiba Inuzuka. What in the hell is wrong with you? How dare you treat a female, let alone your own teammate, like an object? We're going to have a good talk with your mother and sister about your views on women," the crimson-eyed Kunoichi told him as she dragged him toward the Inuzuka compound. Kiba was now scared out of his mind. Both his mother Tsum and sister Hana would turn him into a smear on the wall after they found out about what he was saying about women, his mother especially. Moving on, Naruto was beginning to improve by leaps and bounds under the patient Ichigo. His taijutsu was now more structured due to Ichigo teaching him Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and Jujutsu. Ichigo was told about affinity cards by Anko, and she tested him herself. Naruto had wind and water affinities, just like Ichigo, making the towering blonde smile. This made training him in elemental manipulation that much easier. But Ichigo didn't know any jutsu, as he just made the water and wind to attack at his will. Anko, however, told him that she had it covered for water at least, as it was one of her affinities. Wind was going to be trickier, because wind users were very rare. Sarutobi, however, pointed him towards his son, Asuma, who was a wind user. He didn't have to look far because Team 10 trained in a clearing not far from the one he and Naruto used themselves. One day, Ichigo decided to pay Team 10 a visit. He appeared in front of them with a burst of water. Asuma wondered what he wanted, but Ichigo replied that he'd wait until they were done, but gave a greeting to Shikamaru, who replied back casually. "Asuma, I've got a favor to ask of you," he asked the bearded jounin. "And what do I get in return?" he asked. Ichigo grinned. "I'll teach your team some of my taijutsu if you want, along with other skills of your choosing." Asuma mulled the thought over for a moment, then answered. "All right. What do you need? I'd like for you to teach Naruto some futon jutsu, just a few D rank, maybe a C rank if you feel comfortable," he told him, explaining the situation with Kakashi and Sasuke, to which Asuma scowled. To him, playing favorites was almost criminal, and it seemed that Kakashi was bent on pampering that Uchiha brat along with the rest of the village. He was glad that someone wasn't doing that and trying to help the pariah who should have been seen as a hero. "You've got a deal. I'd like for you to teach them some of your taijutsu and to talk Ino out of dieting. It's killing her slowly and all because of that Uchiha brat. I've tried and so has her father, but she just won't have it." Ichigo took a quick look at the blonde girl and could tell that the early stages of anorexia had set in. "She's so young, but she looks so skinny," he said, his expression downcast. "I'll do it. I'll see if I can make her a little healthier and beef up your boys while I'm at it. Chuji has some confidence issues and Shikamaru needs to be motivated more. Ino's condition stems from confidence issues as well. I just haven't seen a girl that young before," he added sadly. Asuma was amazed that he could tell all of this from watching them for a few moments, and that he intended to help make things right. But one question burned in his mind. "Who are you, though? I've never really met you before," he asked. Ichigo simply smiled. "Ask your father. Tell him that I trust you," he told him as he vanished in a whirlwind of water, to the surprise of the genin. Asuma was told the truth, somewhat, of Ichigo. He was told that Ichigo was an uncle of Naruto's that found out about the survival of his nephew and came back to the village to protect the last member of his family. The surname was just a camouflage so that he wouldn't attract attention. Asuma's respect for the man just rose a few more notches. His respect for Kakashi, however, took another blow after he found out that Kakashi was supposed to look after Naruto as per the wishes of the yandame, his sensei. So far, Ichigo made good on his deal to help out. He was teaching Chuji how to grapple and how to better use his bulk to his advantage. For Shikamaru, he taught him Tai Chi Quan to correlate to his personality, maximum effect with minimal effort. Asuma held his end of the deal and taught Naruto a few D-rank jutsu, and a C-rank, the futon, de tappa, for toppling enemies and buying your team some time. Ino was a different story. He tried to get her to stop dieting, but she rolled right back to the same argument that Sasuke likes skinny women. At his wit's end, he went to Anko and Kurenai for advice on girls. That was when he had a stroke of genius. Ichigo asked Ino to take a walk with him through the village. Ino, what are the things that you want in a boyfriend? It's okay to be honest with me. I won't tell anyone, cross my heart. He told her with a gentle smile as he led her to a dango booth for a treat. Ino had never been asked that before. She pondered the question for a moment, then answered honestly. Well, he'd have to be nice, funny, smile a lot, and like a girl for who she is inside. He nodded his head. Good. Now, if you would allow me another question? Which of these things does Sasuke embody? He asked her honestly and softly, handing her a dango skewer. She was struck speechless as she tried to justify her crush on the brooding boy who never smiled, never laughed or said anything kind to anyone. The blonde girl sat in silence for a few moments. Ichigo-sensei, could you walk me home? I need to think on some things. Sure, Ino-chan. He answered as he ordered a few skewers to go for her to take home with her. Upon reaching her house, he patted her shoulder comfortingly. Don't worry, Ino-chan. I know you'll figure this out. He added as he disappeared in a burst of water. A week later, she showed up to practice in a better mood and looking a little healthier. Asuma couldn't, for the life of him, figure out what happened, so he asked Ichigo. The tall enigmatic blonde told him that Sasuke is now a thing of the past, and that she has grown up a little more. Ichigo showed up for their agreed training, and Ino couldn't help but think about the conversation they had that one afternoon last week. She had come to the conclusion that Sasuke wasn't all that she made him out to be after tailing him and observing him without those rose-tinted glasses she had on before. He was rude, kind of snobbish, always frowned and glared at everyone. Without even realizing it, she began to search for someone who embodied these traits, and she came up with a few people who she never would have thought of. Her own teammates were two of them. She was mean and bossy to them, but they still leapt to her defense when Sasuke insulted her. Another was Naruto. She saw him always trying to help his teammates, just for them to brush him off. He even yelled at Sasuke for being mean to Sakura, even though she was pretty mean to him herself. The last one was the person who she believed set her free, Ichigo. He saved her from herself and her delusions, and from ending up like Sakura might if Naruto weren't there to protect her, battered, abused, and alone. She also stopped her crash dieting, as she saw that it was beginning to hurt her, willing to believe that the boy who truly loves her would like her for who she really is. After training was over that day, she walked up to Ichigo and took him by the hand, dragging him off into town and back to the dango stand they were at the previous week. Ichigo-sensei, I did some thinking about what you said and I wanted to say something to you, she told him, beckoning him to lean down to her height. She then kissed him on his cheek, and then threw her arms around his neck. Thank you so much, she choked out. Ichigo was surprised by how the now former fangirl took his advice, but got down on one knee and hugged her gently. You're very welcome. Passers-by couldn't help but smile at the tender scene between the two. The girl continued to cry of a few more moments until she gave out to exhaustion. She had trained hard that day, and it had caught up with her. He gently scooped the girl into his arms and carried her back home. Inoichi nearly had a heart attack when he saw his little girl unconscious, but his fears were put to rest when Ichigo explained that she had a long day and was only tired. The two men took her up to her room and tucked her in for the day. Inoichi asked him to stick around until he could grab his coat. In the meantime, his wife Akari gave him some tea while he waited. She thanked him for what he did for her daughter. She struck up a conversation with the young man who she heard her husband mention a few times in the past month. She was told what Asuma was, that he was Naruto's uncle, but kept it hidden to better protect the boy. They talked about this and that until a very peculiar question came up. Ichigo-kun, are you currently seeing any of our lucky ladies here in the village? She asked curiously. The curious question nearly made him choke on his tea, but he told her that he wasn't. Right then and there, she secretly wished that they had an older daughter to introduce him to, or that Ino was old enough to go after him instead of that ghastly Uchiha. He was saved from more embarrassing questions by Inoichi coming down the stairs. Then the two headed out to a bar that he and his friends visited often. The Nara and Akimichi heads were already there to Inoichi's surprise, and they motioned them to their table. Chuza and Shikaka had wanted to meet the person who had a hand in increasing their children's self-confidence. The Nara head had never seen his boy so driven before, and Chuza loved the self-confidence his son was exuding now. Inoichi was the happiest of all. This young man had broken his daughter's self-destructive and potentially fatal tendencies, and gave her a sense of self-worth without the Uchiha brat. Asuma found out about the details of their little heart-to-heart, and was thankful that the girl will be fine from now on. As a thank you, he gave Naruto a small scroll with a couple of higher-end wind jutsu, like the Futon, Furyuden and the Repushu, that would make the most of the blonde's massive chakra reserves. Anko had taught him a few water jutsu that she knew, like the Teppadama, Mizurappa, Suryuden, and the Suijin Hiki. She also worked with him on his throwing skills as well. In her exact words, you couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a baseball bat as you are now, so I may as well beat some skill into you. She also stressed the importance of not using his new skills in front of Kakashi, or his team, unless his life was in danger. They couldn't have Kakashi or Sasuke finding out about the extra training and raising a stink about it, as it would just bring on more headaches. Team 7 was right now on their way to Hokage Tower to receive their mission for the day, with a quiet Naruto in tow. He had since learned to stay silent, and let his teammates make fools of themselves while he learned what made them tick and learned to predict what they would say or do. Sakura was still clinging to her fangirl tendencies even after these past few months. She still tried to cling to Sasuke at every given opportunity, just for him to either shove her away, yell at her, or sometimes both. Naruto still tried to at least come to her defense even though his crush on her is long gone just because she was a teammate, only for her to yell, or take a swing at him. Sasuke had been receiving special training from Kakashi since the day they became Team 7. The Copy-nin, thanks to his implanted Sharingan eye, had a massive arsenal of jutsu to teach the prodigal Uchiha, as well as taijutsu forms that he'd ripped off from various shinobi from Konoha and many other villages over the years, including that of one Mado guy. Ichigo had met the eccentric Jounin and his team a month after arriving. While the tall blonde was a bit weirded out by his mannerisms, he knew that guy was a top-notch sensei by the way he treated all of his students fairly. The Hyuga on his team, Niji, was the previous year's Rookie of the Year, was treated no differently than the dead last of the same class, Rock Lee. In fact, Lee was his personal project. The boy couldn't use ninjutsu or genjutsu to save his life, not due to the lack of talent but due to a rare condition in his chakra coils. The boy refused to give up, and it caught Guy's attention. Now Lee is practically a carbon copy of his sensei, who is teaching him all he knows about taijutsu. What really made Ichigo angry was the fact that Kakashi as good as stole all that hard work and effort, and just handed it to Sasuke. The Goken style was sacred to Guy, his and his students' pride and joy. It should have been up to him to determine who learned it, not Kakashi. He had been watching everything that Team 7 did. Kakashi told Naruto to train his control and took Sasuke up to the side and trained him personally while Sakura watched and cheered. Naturally, this infuriated him and the Hokage too, when he filed his reports. Hokage Tower 0830 HRS. Team 7 entered the tower to receive another mission and proceeded to the mission hall. Kakashi greeted the Hokage and requested a mission of the day. Him weeding Mrs. Kurigane's garden, cleaning the Inuzuka kennels, babysitting triplets. The Hokage rambled on as he sorted through the D-rank missions. Naruto sighed audibly. Another boring D-rank? Ah man, he lamented mentally, but was careful not to say it aloud. He really didn't want Sakura to start yelling this early in the morning. Sasuke, however, scoffed at the lame picking that were laid before him. I can't get stronger if we keep going on the lame missions. I need better missions if I'm going to activate my Sharingan. He scoffed. Iruka was quick on the uptake. You've only just graduated from the academy 3 months ago. You need to complete D-ranks for a little while longer before you start asking for higher ranked ones. The school teacher admonished. Kakashi didn't take the upbraiding of his prized student very well. This is my team, Chunin. I decide when they are ready, and I think we can handle a C rank. Sarutobi sighed heavily. Very well. He relented. Send in Tazuna. He ordered Iruka. The man that walked through the mission hall doors was staggering drunk, at least in his late 50s, early 60s. What? My life's gonna be in the hands of a bunch of snot-nosed brats? I don't like the looks of them, especially that blonde runt. He blurted out. Naruto was using every bit of self-control he had to hold himself back from throttling the drunk old bastard. Calm down, in with the good, out with the bad, he thought to himself. Tazuna-san, I am a Jounin and Sasuke here is pretty good, so I think you'll be safe with us. He reassured the old man, straining Naruto's patience even further. They were given the details of the mission from the old man himself, to guard him from bandits, and protect him while he finishes a bridge in his home country, the Land of Waves. As they were dismissed to go make their preparations for the mission, Ichigo swung in through the window of the hall. Ichigo, I trust you heard the details? The old Hokage asked him. Yeah, I did. Good. Your mission will be to shadow them for the duration of the mission and submit a report back to me of what happened. I'll bounce that off of what Kakashi tells me. Leave out nothing and remain unseen and undetected. Only intervene if they are in danger of being wiped out. You will be temporarily instated in the ANBU for this, so go see the quartermaster and receive your armor and mask. He ordered. Gotcha, sir. I'll head out and get my gear, then commence my mission. I'll make sure they all make it back. He replied, saluting, then vanishing in a gust of wind. Sarutobi sank into his chair and lit his pipe. Well now, Kakashi? Let's see how honest you are. En route to Wave Country 1205 hours. Team 7 were on their way to Wave Country with Tazuna in tow. Sasuke was quiet the whole trip, either sulking or glancing around. Sakura divided her time between asking Tazuna questions and talking to Sasuke, who ignored her. Naruto was busy taking in the view, this being his first time this far outside the village walls. Kakashi, as usual, had his nose buried in his smut book, occasionally giggling perversely. Ichigo was trailing them from a distance, but kept them in view. He stayed in the trees and kept his chakra hidden as best he could. His orders were quite clear, to observe Team 7's mechanics, Kakashi's leadership and training methods, and how well they handled themselves. He was not to reveal himself unless the team was in danger of being wiped out. Even then, he was to keep his identity a secret. Apparently, the old man didn't trust Kakashi with Naruto's well-being beyond the village's walls, if his past track records on the guard detail were any proof to that effect. Sarutobi believed that Kakashi would ignore him and further neglect his and Sakura's training just to concentrate on Sasuke. He just needed evidence to bring his glaring deficiencies to light, and force him to face the facts. He snapped out of musings as he noticed a strange chakra signature right in front of the team. He caught up to them and stayed hidden, keeping an eagle eye on them. Back with Team 7, Naruto noticed something strange, as well. On the ground off to the side of the road, there was a puddle of water. He looked at the sky and noted that there were no clouds. There hadn't been any rain in weeks and the ground around the puddle was a bit parched. What the hell? That can't be right. He thought as his suspicions were further warranted by Saki's words. Be careful, Naruto-kun. Something's not right. I can smell it in the air. Taking her words to heart, he made his way over to Kakashi. Hey, Kakashi-sensei? What, Naruto? He replied in an annoyed tone. Geez, I just wanted to ask you something, he thought as he went through with his question. I know you saw that puddle back there. Don't you think it's a little weird to see that on a hot day with no rain for weeks? Just keep your eyes on the path, Naruto, and don't talk unless you have something intelligent to say. The blonde was fuming with indignation at the dismissal. You stupid jackass. I'm trying to warn you. He raged at the one-eyed Jounin inwardly, but before he could actually say something, two weird nines that he had never seen before shot out of the puddle and lanced toward Kakashi with a razor chain that was stretched between them that they wrapped around him. The three genin watched in horror when with a solid tug, the two nuke nines sliced their sensei in half. The two nines then turned their attention to Tazuna and made a beeline for him. Sakura and Tazuna stood frozen in fear, but Naruto tackled them just in time. Get down! He bellowed, although he got slashed by the chain in the process. Sasuke, who was standing nearby, was using his own team and the client as bait to make them forget about him, attacked them from their blind spot, pinning their chain to a nearby tree with a few kunai. No, that thing was poisoned! Naruto thought as his vision began to blur. Saki felt the poison enter and start to affect Naruto, but she quickly set to work on nullifying the poison so that it wouldn't hamper her host too much. Naruto-kun, just keep fighting and leave the poison to me. Got it, Saki-chan? He replied back to her as he made some shadow clones to go help Sasuke while he regained his bearings. He felt the Kyubi begin to counteract the poison in his system as a wave of relief washed over him, but Sakura just looked on, stunned at what just happened. Baka! I wanted Sasuke-kun to save me! She yelled at him, taking a swing at him. Naruto was just tuning her out as he launched himself back into the fray by using one of his new jutsu. He waited for Sasuke to get clear, performed a few hand seal, and launched his attack. Futon de Tapa. The effect was better than he had hoped. The pair were thrown back into the trees, stunning them long enough for the Kage Bunshins to close in and take them down, hard. Ichigo had witnessed the whole thing and couldn't be any more proud of his student and descendant. Sasuke was in the process of catching his breath when he stopped to think about what Naruto had done. That dope took them out with that wind jutsu. Where did he learn that? I need it more. He fumed as Kakashi came back out into the open. Well done, Sasuke. I knew you could handle this. He complimented the Uchiha Avenger before turning to Sakura. You too, Sakura. You protected the client. He then turned his attention to Naruto with a scowl. You didn't do anything except get in the way. You could have hurt the client and Sasuke didn't need your help. That futon jutsu was reckless and you could have hurt Sasuke with it. If you can't work with them, you have no place on this team. Ichigo couldn't believe what he just heard. Naruto was the one who tried to work with them and even saved them, but that jackass just gave the credit to them, instead. He had to use every bit of self-control to avoid breaking cover and kicking his ass. Naruto was just as pissed off. That bastard, I just tried to help out. He thought as his temper started to rise. Then where the hell did you disappear to when you should have been here to help us? He shot back. The one-eyed Jounin's lone eye narrowed. I was trying to see who they were after until you interfered. I think it's pretty obvious that they were after the old geezer. They made a beeline right for him. He bellowed as he dropped to one knee clutching his shoulder. The poison's still not through with him yet. Said old man rushed to the boy's side, taking off the rag from his head and using it as a bandage. Don't worry, kid. I know that you were the star of the show this time around, and you got hurt saving me. Thanks, kid. Tazuna whispered to him as he finished dressing the wound. Naruto gave him a small grin and a nod. Thanks, old man. Kakashi started to grill Tazuna on why he only paid for a C-rank mission when there were enemy shinobi involved. The two shinobi who attacked them were Chunin-level nuke nin from Kiri known as the Demon Brothers. A cakewalk for someone like Kakashi but a real handful for Academy fresh genin. Tazuna replied that Wave Country was very poor and couldn't afford to pay for a higher-ranked mission. He sighed and asked Sakura and Sasuke what they thought, ignoring Naruto. Sasuke just grunted and said that he wanted to keep going. Sakura was unsure but agreed with her crush. After Kakashi summoned one of his hounds to deliver a message for prisoner pickup back to the village, they picked up and set out again, leaving Naruto behind. Sakura looked back at Naruto as he staggered to his feet to walk after them. She just couldn't figure it out. The boy she ridiculed on a regular basis had just saved her life, while her crush seemingly left her to her fate. Naruto grumbled, "Would it kill you to wait for me?" Freaking jerks as he rose to his feet slowly and caught up with them. As the little pug, Pakin, ran beneath him, Ichigo jumped down to intercept him. "Here," he said, holding out a scroll. "Give this to the Hokage for me." The dog eyed him suspiciously, but saw that he was in the uniform of a konoha ANBU. What are you doing here? I am on a mission of my own from the old man himself, and it involves them, he said, pointing in the direction that Team 7 took off in. I can't say anything more than that, but it has to do with the Yandame's legacy and Hotaki's irresponsible handling of him. He added. Pakin's face was now grim, as Ichigo, or Kitsune, noticed. I trust you know about it then? The pug nodded slowly. Yes. I do. That fool Hotaki, I told him that his actions would come back to haunt him. It breathed, before it recomposed itself. So, the Hokage finally deemed it necessary to have Hotaki monitored? Ichigo gave the small pug the gravest of nods. He has thus far proven to be a laughable teacher, and it has begun to become a liability that Hokage-sama no longer wishes to allow to continue. Pakin grunted in agreement. There was nothing to argue about. Kakashi was screwing up, and it was only a matter of time before some light was shed on the subject. The small Niken sighed. You have my word that I won't breath a word of this to Hotaki. I'll deliver your message to the old man, he told the tall fox-masked blonde, accepting the scroll from him. Thank you, he replied while holding a glowing hand of him, giving him chakra. For your time. The pug nodded and continued on his way while Kitsune went on his. I'm really starting to hate you, Hotaki, the fox-masked blonde muttered angrily as he started catching up to the team again. Back with Team 7, they had set up camp for the night. Sakura had stuck close to Sasuke more out of habit than anything. Kakashi was reading his orange smut book. Tazuna was resting beneath a tree, and Naruto was crouched near the fire which he started and was cooking some fish that he caught. He was grateful to Ichigo for taking him fishing and showing him how to catch fish quickly. He wiped his brow and called out the chow was on. Before he knew it, the food was gone and not even a single thank you except from Tazuna. The fish were all gone, including the one he set aside for himself. But when he looked over at Sasuke, he had 2 fish in his hands. That jerk, one of those was for me. He thought angrily as he pulled out a ration bar that he was hoping to save for later. Man, I was hoping to save this for later. Sakura watched as Naruto munched on the nasty ration with a grimace while everyone else got to enjoy the grilled fish that he himself prepared. The pink-haired girl was now wrapped in an internal struggle with her inner persona. He looked so dejected and hurt that his own teammates and sensei have no consideration for him, and how he even went and cooked dinner for all of us. He didn't even get to enjoy it. Inner Sakura commented sadly. Who cares? That baka should have caught more if he wanted to eat. Sasuke-kun needs food to perform and Naruto just needs to stay out of the way. Sakura huffed. The baka, as you call him, saved your life today while your precious Uchiha let you defenseless and uncovered. That foolish Uchiha nearly got himself killed until Naruto got involved and covered his back. She retorted, still seething with anger at what Kakashi and Sasuke had done earlier. That's not true. Take that back. She shot back, angry that someone had pointed out one of Sasuke's many glaring shortcomings. Make me. Inner Sakura taunted as Sakura lunged at her. With a well-placed fist, Inner Sakura had subdued the fangirl persona and took control of her body for a few moments. She looked down at her fish and saw that there was enough of it left to give to her teammate. She promptly stood up and made her way over to the log at the edge of their encampment where Naruto sat, preparing something. She tapped him on the shoulder to get his attention, but to her dismay, he jumped and flinched away from her. What is it, Sakura? He asked, his voice regaining some stability, but still conveying suspicion. What's she up to? She didn't show it, but it hurt not being Sakura-chan anymore. Inner Sakura quite enjoyed it as it showed that someone truly cared for her. Say, Naruto, would you like to finish this? She asked, but saw the skeptical look on his face. Of course he's suspicious. She's been a total witch to him, she thought while thinking of a viable excuse. I just thought that since you were kind enough to catch and cook dinner, it's the least I could do, she told him, holding out the offered food. Naruto looked her in the eye, eyed the food, then looked back at her and sighed. Thanks but no thanks. You eat it and keep your strength up. I don't need Kakashi-sensei or Sasuke blaming me if you get hungry and can't keep up. He told her as he stood up and walked away. Wait, where are you going? She asked. To set some perimeter traps for the night. He told her without turning around, making his way out of the camp. Just before he left her sight, Inner Sakura lost control and the fangirl regained it. Damn! Ran out of time. She cursed as she was shunted off to a corner of her host's subconscious. What is that baka doing? Who cares, as long as he leaves us alone? She thought as she went over to talk with Sasuke. Kakashi may have looked like he wasn't paying attention, but he saw everything that transpired. He also wondered where Naruto learned that Futon Jutsu and some of his fighting style. He was informed that Naruto could barely even defend himself, but during the test, Naruto was giving him a run for his money for a moment, and had to fight harder than he had against Sasuke. On top of that, Naruto fared far better than Sasuke against the demon brothers, taking them both down and out. He wanted to know who was helping Naruto and interfering with his team. Naruto came back into the camp after setting his traps and was looking forward to getting a little rest when Sasuke confronted him. Where did you go, Do? He demanded. Naruto snorted slightly. Typical Uchiha charm, I see. If you have to know, I was out setting some perimeter traps as an insurance against any more sneak attacks, he answered as he went to unfurl his bedroll. Sasuke wasn't satisfied with that answer, however, as he grabbed the front of Naruto's jacket. Where did you learn that ninjutsu and clone jutsu? Who gave them to you? He demanded again. Naruto knocked his hands away from him. That's enough. Cut it out, Sasuke. Why are you angry that I may have learned something that you don't? Sakura saw and heard what was happening, but inner Sakura flared up again. Oh no you don't. You stay out of this. You'll only make things worse. Inner Sakura tried to reason. How dare that baka talk to Sasuke-kun that way? She raged. What Naruto was taught is his own business, not ours. Leave him be, you've done enough to him in recent months. Inner Sakura snarled as she vanished again. Sakura sat down on a log nearby and watched it all unfold. Because you don't deserve it. Sasuke growled at the blonde-haired boy. Oh, and you do? Naruto countered. A loser like you wouldn't understand. I need more power. I need to avenge my clan, whatever. Just leave me alone. I want to get some sleep and you should too. He told him as he climbed into his bedroll. Sasuke fumed with indignation over this, but turned in for the night, as well. Naruto was only asleep for an hour when he felt someone shake him awake. He opened his eyes groggily to see Kakashi crouched over him. We need to talk, Naruto, he told him in a tone that was more of an order than anything else. The one-eyed nin took him slightly out of the camp to talk with him. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? He asked, not really sure what he was so upset about. He caught and cooked dinner, set up some traps to ensure their safety, so what was the beef? I know someone has been teaching you outside of our team's sessions, that wind jutsu only proves it. Now, who's been teaching you? He asked him harshly. Why does it matter so much? Aren't we supposed to be training at every available opportunity and take some initiative? I mean, maybe I've just been putting extra hours into my training and it's showing some results? Don't take me for an idiot, Naruto. How could the dead last improve so much on his own so quickly? That taijutsu looked fairly advanced, and I've never seen it before. Futon jutsu are very rare in our village, and they would most likely be beyond your means. Now, who is it? Who's been teaching you? He demanded more forcefully, letting out some killer intent. My new neighbor, Ichigo-san. He lets me train with him when we get the chance and we hang out too. He answered. He was told that if Kakashi had issues with his teachings, then he could deal with him personally. He wanted to keep Asuma, Anko, and the others who contributed in their own little ways a secret to protect them from the council and what he knew they would do. I don't want you seeing him or training with him anymore. You are my student, not his. He ordered. What? But he's my friend. If he hadn't been training me, there's a good chance we could have been killed. Don't argue with me, that's an order. If I find out that you've been learning from him again, I'll put you on report. He growled at Naruto as he walked back to the camp. Ichigo was listening in on the conversation. He knew now that the copy nin would now be looking for him when they returned, but that hardly mattered right now. At least he didn't spill everything. That douchebag has another thing coming when he gets back to the village and after I file this report with the old man. I'll never stop training Naruto, regardless of how mad Kakashi team gets. If he has a problem with it, he can face me, not bully the kid out of it. He thought angrily as he made a small platoon of Kage Bunshin to keep watch while he got a little sleep. The next morning, August 20th, Naruto woke up and stretched out the stiffness in his body as he made his way to the nearby stream to wash his face. He washed up, packed his gear in and pulled out a ration bar to eat for breakfast. The ingratitude for his cooking dinner the previous night convinced him that he needn't do it again. The rest of the team woke up as he sat on his stump, his gaze directed away from the encampment. Kakashi was still a little sore at Naruto from the other day, but pushed that aside as he ordered the rest of the team to pack it in and get moving. They came up to a pier of sorts that was shrouded in mist as Tazuna signaled someone with a small boat. The ruddy-faced man who piloted the small craft had a wary eye on the shinobi. These the ones, Tazuna? He asked. Tazuna nodded. The man shook his head. I hope this is worth the risk we're running, he sighed as they all boarded the boat that was bound for Wave. Ichigo watched as the boat scuttled out to Wave and began to trek over the water and meet the boat on the other side. He thought about what had happened throughout this mission so far, and he wasn't impressed with the copy nin's ability to be unbiased and fair with his team, with the rest of Team 7 falling in right behind him. Right from the get-go, Sasuke left a bad taste in his mouth. The kid had a bad attitude, Nuff said. Sakura wasn't much better, just blindly following along with the Uchiha kid. Kakashi was very biased and obviously disliked Naruto, disparaging him and talking down to him at every opportunity. Just icing on the cake, that would be the final report, he thought as he began to approach dry land. Team 7 piled out of the boat and were now on Wave territory and continued their trek towards Tazuna's village when Naruto noticed something rustling in the bushes, chucking a kunai at it. They found that he nearly hit a snow-white rabbit. Sakura yelled at him for scaring everyone like that, but Kakashi actually thought that Naruto was on to something even if he'd never admit to it. He knew that the rabbit's fur shouldn't have been white in late summer, so someone used it as a kawarii. Suddenly, a thick mist began to roll in and blanket the area, putting them all on edge. Suddenly, Kakashi threw them all to the ground as a massive sword buzzed over their heads. A cold, menacing laugh rang from out of the mist. So many areas to choose from, 8 instant death points, the heart first, Or maybe the head it taunted as a figure emerged from the mist. Kakashi's visible eye widened with recognition. Zabuza Momochi, he growled. Zabuza let out a bark of laughter as he recognized his opponent. Sharingan Kakashi, what a small world this is. He commented aloud, his voice packed with amusement. Kakashi-sensei, who is he? Sakura asked him timidly. He's Zabuza Momochi, an A-rank criminal from the Mist Village, also known as the Demon of the Mist for killing 100 of his classmates to graduate from the Mist Academy, he told them, making Sakura go white in terror. Stay back and guard Tazuna. I'll handle him. Ah yes. Such fond memories, but now, let's get down to business. Fork over the old man and you and your brats can walk away. The browless missing Nin demanded. Sorry, but we've got a job to do, he replied while unveiling his Sharingan eye. Oh ho, resorting to the Sharingan, already? I'm honored. Zabuza sneered in mock gratitude while readying his Zanbatsu and making a hand seal that made the mist get even thicker. His killing intent permeated the air, making all but Kakashi stand paralyzed with fear. He turned to them and reassured them that he'd handled the situation, and the two jounin went head to head, Zabuza using his water jutsu and Kakashi copying it and countering him. What Kakashi didn't expect was for Zabuza to make some Mizu Bunshin to go after his team. Naruto and Sasuke were doing everything they could to fend off the attacking water clones, but they were being beaten back. Damn, this is bad. I guess it's time for another jutsu. He reasoned as he made a few Kage Bunshin to keep the clones at bay for a few precious seconds while he weaved those hand seals for one of the bigger wind jutsu he knew, courtesy of Asuma-sensei. As soon as he saw that Sasuke was in the clear and he had a few Bunshin lined up, he let them have it. Futon, Furiaden! He screamed out as a large dragon made of wind shredded the offending Bunshin with extreme prejudice. The jutsu was so loud and destructive that both Kakashi and Zabuza took notice. That brat has some skill, taking down my water clones like that, he commented, but saw that Kakashi was still distracted and took full advantage of it, trapping him in the water prison jutsu. Now, Kakashi looked on as more water clones sprang up and began to assault his fledgling team. From his nearby perch, Ichigo swore loudly. That idiot, he should know better than to take his eyes off of his opponent. He grumbled as he fouxed a bit. With a sharp thrust of his hand and a grunt, a blade of wind sliced the Bunshin horde in half and halted the assault in its tracks. There. That should even the odds, he murmured as he turned his attention back to the battle. He was about to move in to free Kakashi, but saw that Naruto already had the situation well under control. Not even stopping to wonder where that wind blade came from, Naruto worked out a plan to free Kakashi. He made even more Kage Bunshin and had them throw everything they had at Zabuza to keep him busy while he aimed another jutsu right at him. There was plenty of water all around him, so he went with a water jutsu. Suten, Suryuden! He cried, and a water dragon bore down on Zabuza. Between the thrown weapons and the jutsu, Zabuza knew he had to let the jutsu go if he wanted to keep his arm, so he disengaged and broke away. While Zabuza was still trying to get his bearings and figure out how the hell a genin could use two higher-level jutsu without keeling over and rip his water clones apart, Kakashi got behind him and put a kunai at his throat. Game over, Zabuza, he told the Kiri missing Nin. Before Kakashi could even flinch, a trio of Saban buried themselves in Zabuza's neck, sending him crashing lifelessly to the ground. A masked hunter Nin dropped out of the trees and greeted the team. I greatly appreciate that you defeated him and made my job easier, the masked Nin said coolly while loading up Zabuza. Goodbye, he told them as he disappeared with the body. Soon after the mystery Nin hightailed it out of there, Kakashi slumped to the ground from chakra exhaustion. Hey old man. How far is your house from here? Naruto asked since his teammates weren't offering any helpful suggestions. Tazuna nodded. It's not too far from here, only an hour's travel from here, and we're there. I'll lead the way, he offered. Naruto nodded, picked up Kakashi, and looked back at his teammates. You guys coming or what? He asked them as he and Tazuna hit the trail, walking off in the direction of Tazuna's home. Sakura was now very confused. That was twice now that Naruto, the dead last loser and weakling, had succeeded where Sasuke, the rookie of the year and supposedly infallible ninja, had failed. Another thing was that Naruto no longer fawned over her like he used to, opting to ignore her if possible, but still remaining civil. Her inner was constantly raging at her for always disparaging Naruto and never giving him a fair chance. Was she right all along? Sasuke was livid. First, Naruto had taken out the two Mist Chunin almost in one fell swoop. Now he saved them and the client from the Mizu Bunshins and freed Kakashi from the water prison himself. He nearly wet himself when that missing Nin with the massive sword unleashed his killer intent, but Naruto somehow remained calm. During it all, Naruto used 3 high-rank jutsu, at least B rank and above, that he didn't know. He ran in front of Naruto and stood in his way, grabbing the front of his shirt. Dobe, tell me where you learned those jutsu, he demanded angrily. Naruto wasn't impressed. He knew that Sasuke would throw a tantrum like this and was somewhat expecting it. Now's not the time for this, Sasuke. Let me go and let's get to old man Tazuna's place before dark. Kakashi-sensei needs to rest, he told Sasuke firmly. Since when do I take orders from you, Dobe? Tell me now. I need that power, he shouted angrily before he was cut off by Naruto, to avenge your family. He fin-sighed for him. Yeah? We know. The people who taught these to me are my friends. You know that foreign F word that you don't seem to get? He told the wannabe Avenger, as he removed his hands from his jacket collar. Cut it out so we can get to a safe place for the night. Sasuke was about to deck Naruto when Sakura did something odd. She moved to defend Naruto. Naruto's right. This won't solve anything and we need to get Kakashi-sensei to a safe place. We won't stand a chance if we get attacked like that again, now let's go. She told him firmly. Tazuna had had quite enough of this little prima donna's attitude, as well. Cut it out, kid. The blonde is right. We don't know what else might hit us if we stay here while you piss and moan. Now let's go. With that, they were on their way and made it to his house just after nightfall. Ichigo was still watching and knew that the hunter Nin must have been an accomplice of that freaky guy somehow. From what he read, the hunters were supposed to burn the body in sight and make off with only the head. He decided against chasing him, though, as his mission was to stick close to Team 7. He listened into the little spat and knew that Sasuke was becoming a problem. His attitude was piss poor, and he was now trying to shake down Naruto for information. He was surprised when Sakura came to his defense against her crush. That was something completely unexpected, but it helped to get the team moving. He found a secluded patch of forest near the old man's house and did his nightly ritual, set traps, make a Kage Bunshin security squad, and get some rest. Tazuna introduced the team to his family. His daughter, Tsunami, was a lovely woman with a very motherly air to her. Inari, her son, seemed very broody and angry. After eating dinner and Naruto volunteered for the first watch, Sakura laid down in a bed that Tsunami provided, thinking about what had happened. Did I do the right thing in arguing with Sasuke-kun? She wondered. All you did was defend your teammate and agree with a perfectly sensible plan. Your crush wanted to stay there and get into a pissing match that not even Naruto felt like getting into after what had just happened. So yes, you did the right thing, choosing survival over indulging your crush. Inner Sakura reasoned. What if he doesn't like me anymore after I argued with him? This is all Naruto's. She began to wail but was cut off. No. I.S. said forcefully. This is not Naruto's fault. He just took command when the chips were down and was trying to get his team to safety. At this rate, he's putting some truth behind his claims of becoming Hokage someday. He's showing the leadership and responsibility that you and Sasuke thought you had, but don't. Don't even think of blaming him for something you yourself did. It's about time that you grew up and faced reality. The whole damsel in distress bit only works when your Prince Charmless actually gives a rat's ass about you. If it weren't for Naruto, we'd be dead right now and the mission would be a failure. Think about that. She snarled while fading back into the recesses of Sakura's mind, leaving her host to think on things. The next day, Kakashi woke up and addressed his team. He was told that Naruto was the one responsible for getting him to a safe place to recover and taking up the responsibility of command while he was down, but didn't really want to believe it. He went over what happened with the hunter Nin, and concluded that Zabuza was still alive and could attack again. Naruto swore silently. Damn. I knew it, he breathed. Kakashi couldn't help hear that part. Naruto, care to enlighten us on what you were saying? He looked at Kakashi warily, but endeavored to explain. I was reading up in the library during our off time and learned that hunter Nins are supposed to dispose of the body on site and bring back only the head as proof of death. This guy didn't. Furthermore, the weapon he used were Senbon. Where those Senbon hit, it couldn't have possibly killed him. I read that it's possible to put someone in a death-like state, however. He explained to his stunned team. Sasuke was the first to snap out of it. How would an idiot like you know that? He scoffed at the blonde boy. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the supposed prodigy. I can read, Sasuke, he replied sarcastically. My neighbor likes to read and study, and he also lent me some books on stuff like that and it interested me. He explained. Naruto, what's happened to you? You were never like this, Sakura blurted out. You think I liked being an idiot, Sakura? Do you think I enjoyed throwing on that fake smile to hide how I really felt and thought? Did you ever really know me at all to make that kind of assumption? He asked her with an edge to his voice before he turned his attention back to the team as a whole. I figured that since I would be going on missions like this someday, I might as well learn something and possibly save my teammates in the process, like today, he told her with an expression of sadness and anger. He switched topics and addressed Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, are there any exercises that we can work on while you recover? He requested. Kakashi blinked owlishly. I happen to have just the exercise for you all. Follow me. He told them while dragging himself to his feet. Inside, he was torn between pride that his student took the initiative to study during his off time and also took command while he was down, and loathing that said student was the dead last and not his star pupil, Sasuke Uchiha. Also, he was fuming at the fact that Ichigo came up again, and was teaching the blonde all sorts of useful things while Kakashi let him stagnate. His orders from the council were quite clear. Naruto Uzumaki must be suppressed. His growth must be stunted so that his death will come on assignment, and not look suspicious. Ichigo was messing up his progress in that mission. The team came to a clearing with many tall trees. Kakashi turned and addressed his team. Okay, now the exercise I will be teaching you will be to climb trees. Sasuke scoffed at the training. What good will that do? Even the dope can do that. The copy nin shook his head. No. I meant without your hands. He corrected while he walked right up the tree and hung from a thick branch, smirking at their reactions. He looked again and found that Naruto was missing. Where's Naruto? He inquired, but a voice from higher up cut him off. Looking for me? He asked, hanging from a branch directly above him, looking down straight at them with a deadpan look on his features. Kakashi swallowed his surprise and commented. Well, I can see you're ahead of the curve here, Naruto, but can you do it again? He challenged. Naruto shrugged and casually walked straight up the tree to a higher branch. What now? From a nearby tree, Ichigo was nearly rolling with laughter at the shocked faces of Team 7. He was the one to teach him that, and it only took a few hours for him to learn it. In fact, they were working on water walking before he left. The Kage Bunshin training method was a real boon when used properly. Kakashi was stewing silently. He wasn't supposed to know things like this. Hokage-sama needs to stop this Ichigo from interfering and stealing my student. He mused angrily. That's enough showing off, Naruto. Get down here now, he ordered. Naruto and Ichigo scowled and knew what was to come. Naruto leapt down to the ground and faced his sensei. Why didn't you tell us about your abilities beforehand? You should have told us and taught them to Sasuke. He scolded. Naruto looked at him as if he grew another head before replying. Why should I? Don't think I don't know about the extra training you give Sasuke after you chase me away after our team meetings. I learned all of this in my free time, not from you, he replied, clearly not amused by his accusations and blatant favoritism. Watch your tone with me, Genin. What I do after the team meetings is my own business, not yours. He shot back in a scathing tone. He turned his attention back to the rest of Team 7. Now I want the rest of you to give it a shot while Naruto and I go have a little talk. He finished. Sakura watched the two of them disappear from view while thinking about what just happened. During the course of this mission, Naruto had proven that he was just as capable as Sasuke and hadn't bothered or spoke to her once, or even looked at her unless the situation demanded it. Kakashi-sensei was acting really weird too. Why would he get so mad that somebody would take some initiative to learn on their own? It almost seemed as if Kakashi-sensei had something personal against Naruto. Inner Sakura was contemplating these facts away from her host's notice. What is going on here? Why is Kakashi so hell-bent on snubbing Naruto like that and only concentrating on that snob Sasuke? Sasuke was fuming with rage at the fact that the dobe had again shown himself to be superior. He was almost like a different person compared to their academy days. It all started the day of their team selections when he flipped out on all of them and that mysterious Jounin started to show up around Naruto, as if he were watching over him. Sasuke was desperate to get his hands on the power that tall blonde man displayed so casually the day of their team test. I want that power. I need it to fulfill my vengeance against my brother. I'll just have the council make him give me his secrets. Ichigo followed Kakashi and Naruto silently in order to hear the conversation. He really didn't like what he was hearing. Naruto. Why won't you give those jutsu to Sasuke? He needs them a lot more than you do. Naruto didn't respond at first, as he was digging in his ear with his finger. What? I couldn't hear you. My bullshit filter got clogged and I had to clean it out, he replied sarcastically. Stop that right now, young man. He chastised sternly. He needs those jutsu more than you. Try to get that neighbor of yours to train him, too, he added, a touch of desperation in his words. Are you nuts? He hates Sasuke and would rather neuter him with a rusty spoon than have anything to do with him after what happened after you left the day you gave us that test. He argued. What do you mean by that? After you left, he tried to slap Sakura for no reason, but Ichigo-san stopped him with a small water blast and cut me loose from the log you left me tied to. Sasuke tried to get him to train him, but he refused. Sasuke threw a tantrum and tried to attack him, only to get stopped cold. Sakura begged him not to hurt Sasuke, so let him go. After he did that, Sasuke thought it would be a good idea to roast us all alive with a Gakakyu. Thankfully, Ichigo-san made sure you still even had a team by protecting me and Sakura with a water shield. When the fire died down, Ichigo-san knocked him out and told us both to go home and that he'd take Sasuke to you for punishment, as he said that it wasn't his place to do it. Kakashi swore inwardly. After something like that, Sasuke was lucky that Ichigo only knocked him out even though he was within his right to punish him as he saw fit. It was a very foolish thing to do, attacking a Jounin like that, especially an unknown one. He was also lucky that Ichigo didn't go to the Hokage about it, and tried to handle it on the lowest possible level. There was no chance at ever getting the blonde man to teach Sasuke his secrets, much less Naruto. What will you work on now? I'm gonna go work on water walking. I was working on it before we took this mission. Later, he told Kakashi nonchalantly as he walked toward a small creek he spotted on the way to the clearing. 1 week later, August 25th, Naruto trained relentlessly for the next few days as well as committing to his duties and guarding Tazuna and the bridge-building crew. He even managed to finally walk on water, even if it was a little unstable. The only things out of the ordinary that happened as that one night, he fell asleep near the creek he trained at, and woke up to possibly the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen hovering over him. Of course, Naruto was ultra bashful, but made small talk with the girl. "And my name's Naruto Uzumaki, Ne-chan," said Ne-chan, giggled at his enthusiastic greeting. "Hello, Naruto-kun. My name is Haku. Haku-nichan, what are you doing out here? Collecting herbs for my precious person. He was hurt pretty badly and I'm trying to help him." "Precious person? Someone dear to me. Do you have someone like that, Naruto-kun?" He thought for a moment. His thoughts ran through some of the people he knew. Ichigo came to mind. The Sandaime, Iruka-sensei, and Takeo and his wife, Sanai, came to mind as well. His teammates just barely squeaked by in his opinion. "Yeah, I do." They kept up the small talk for a little while longer until Haku had to get going. She had never met anyone quite like Naruto before, but was glad that she did. He almost became something of a little brother to the lonely girl. He told her a lot about himself, and she felt like she'd known him her whole life. She could even tell that he was quite lonely himself. He had come to sleep on the roof of Tazuna's house and generally stayed away from his team outside of training, meal times, and duties. He wasn't rude about it, but kept his distance from them at all times because he didn't trust them, especially Kakashi and Sasuke. Sakura had become somewhat of a wild card. At times, she would be openly hostile to him as he expected, but a few times, she was sort of nurturing to him, as if she did care about him on some level. Another night, however, wasn't as pleasant. With the arrival of Ichigo and his newfound knowledge of and help from the Kyubi aka Saki, his nightmares were getting fewer and farther in between, but this night, he had a massive nightmare. The bad dream was of some of the times that he was beaten as a small child in the orphanage. From inside of her seal, Saki was doing all she could to calm him down as he was pulling a bit on her chakra in his fright. It wasn't long before his pain screams pierced the night, making the inhabitants of the house awaken in fright. Ichigo was already there, trying to calm him down when he sensed the rest of the team had awaked, and he had to hide himself again. As he pulled back, he asked Saki to do what she could for him, to which she immediately agreed to. She frantically tried to awaken her vessel, but the seal blocked most of her influence over him. The most she could do was try to coax him into calming down, then comforting him to keep the nightmares at bay. Kakashi reached out with his senses and detected a faint signature of the Kyubi's aura. Is the seal being breached? He thought in a panic as he rushed to the rooftop. The rest of Team 7 and Tazuna had followed right after him and were greeted by an unsettling sight. Naruto was engulfed in a blood-red haze, screaming and convulsing as though he were in intense pain. His hair was wild, he had what appeared to be fangs and claws, and his whisker marks had deepened. Sakura and Tazuna were about to go forward to have a better look, but were held back by Kakashi. "No. Don't get too close to him right now. Wait for it to die down, then we could possibly do something about this," he ordered. Sasuke watched in almost perverse fascination at what was happening to his teammate. He had seen that crimson aura come from Naruto before and saw how powerful it made him. He could feel the raw power flowing, erupting from him in waves. This power, why does he have it, and not me? Within the seal, Saki was beginning to succeed in calming her vessel down. She held him in the tightest embrace she could manage while, slowly, the haze around him began to die down, and he stopped convulsing and screaming. He began to do something that he hadn't done of a little over half of his lifetime, cried openly even though he wasn't conscious for it. Ichigo was watching from a nearby tree, holding himself back from rushing to Naruto's aid. He needed to see how the team handled this and how Kakashi would react. Naruto's closed eyes were flowing with tears as he let out pained sobs and moans in his sleep. "And no, I've been good. Why are you hurting me? I'm not a monster. I don't want to be alone." Saki couldn't stand her vessel being in such pain. This nightmare made his other ones pale in comparison, and there was very little she could do to help. In a move of desperation, she threw herself into the seal with all the strength she could muster and managed to weaken it a bit. Seeing her opportunity, she seized it and let her consciousness seep out into the world. Suddenly, a red aura flared to life beside him and Kakashi pulled the team back. As soon as the flare died down, a ghostly figure could be seen sitting Saiza beside him with a sad look on her face. Kakashi first thought that she was a ghost until he saw her features. She had long crimson hair and eyes, 9 long fox tails and red fox ears, and an elegant kimono. The one-eyed man paled when he figured out just who that mysterious woman was that pulled Naruto's head into her lap and began to sing a hauntingly beautiful lullaby while stroking his hair affectionately. He got into a defensive stance, which Sasuke mirrored, but Sakura wasn't so sure. The pink-haired girl stood spellbound by this beautiful woman's song, and how she seemed to care greatly for Naruto. The song ended and Naruto was once again sleeping peacefully. The ghostly fox woman's eyes shone with tears in the moonlight. "My precious little kid, I will protect you from your nightmares and what that foolish village has done to you. I love you, my little Naruto," she told him sadly as she gave him a kiss on his forehead and vanished like a wisp of smoke. The team all heard what he was saying and had various reactions. Tazuna and Tsunami were filled with sympathy for the poor boy. Tazuna had a pretty good idea of how Naruto was treated and that accounted for what he heard. Tsunami wondered morbidly what could have possibly happened to the boy to cause such horrifying nightmares. Kakashi was starting to feel guilt over how he handled Naruto in the past, but stopped it ruthlessly. He was still angry with Naruto, as he believed that he stole the life of his teacher and the life of his remaining teammate, Rin. He wanted to eliminate him, But the Hokage would ask questions and his team and the client were there, so he let it go. Sasuke was visibly angry. He found that Naruto had outclassed him again. He had a power that made his pale in comparison, and that was something he couldn't stand. He sneered in disgust and was about to leave the roof until Sakura called out to him. Sasuke-kun, shouldn't we at least bring a blanket up here for him? She asked in a concerned tone. He turned and glared at her. Leave that dope up here. I couldn't care less about what happens to that loser. He growled out as he jumped down from the roof. Tazuna and Tsunami both shook their heads sadly and climbed down off of the roof. Sakura stopped Kakashi before he could leave himself. Kakashi-sensei, who was that woman? Why did she look so much like a fox, and why does she seem to care about Naruto so much, of all people? I can't tell you, as it's a village secret. The punishment for letting it slip is death. The only people who can tell you are the Sandaime, and Naruto himself. I doubt that Naruto would tell anyone about it willingly though. He told her as he jumped down from the roof. Sakura was torn in two. Her fangirl persona and inner persona were warring inside of her over what to do. The fangirl wanted to follow Sasuke, but the inner wanted to know more about what happened and if she could help in any way. What the hell could have happened to him? What have we done? So what? That dobe made Sasuke-kun angry with me. He can stay up here and freeze for all I care. That's it. I've had it with you. I.S. roared as she threw herself at the fangirl, subduing her rather quickly and gaining control of her body. Now in the driver's seat, she went to find a blanket for the boy who had suffered so much. She came back with a blanket that was on the bed he was supposed to use and draped it over him. Sorry, but this is the best I can do for now, she told him sadly as she hopped down from the roof to get some sleep. The next morning, August 26th. The next morning came around very quickly. The rest of Team 7 was to follow Tazuna to the bridge today. Kakashi noticed that Naruto was still out of it, but left him to sleep and rest. He had heard the pulling on demonic chakra could be quite taxing for Jinchuriki, and could sap their strength very quickly. Sasuke and Sakura began to complain that Naruto was just being lazy, but he dragged them out the door anyway. At Gata's compound, Zabuza and Haku were gearing up to go and fulfill their contract with the corrupt businessman, to kill Tazuna at any cost. Haku was thinking back on the time she met Naruto in the forest and gave a sad smile. She felt that the short blonde genin could have become the best friend he ever had, but she would have to fight and possibly kill him. Zabuza was somewhat impressed with Naruto. The boy had actually managed to keep him and his clones at bay while freeing his sensei, very good for a fresh genin. The fat little man wasn't happy with just killing Tazuna, however. He sent two of his better swordsmen to Tazuna's house and wanted to take his daughter Tsunami into his slave business, and kill his grandson publicly as a warning to all who would oppose him. By the time Team 7 and Tazuna reached the bridge, a thick mist blanketed the area and Tazuna's workforce was badly injured, but still alive. A cold laugh sounded from the mist. Zabuza, he's here. Kakashi warned his team. Sakura, stay with Tazuna. Sasuke with me. He ordered as they took their positions. Zabuza was busy taunting Kakashi and his genin as he made a comment on Sasuke's trembling. I'm trembling with excitement, the Uchiha replied. But as he said that, Haku made a move toward Tazuna, but was cut off by Sasuke, who began to square off. Kakashi and Zabuza soon began their own little dance as Kunai met Zanbatsu. Back at Tazuna's place, Gata's men had already arrived and captured Inari and Tsunami. Naruto awoke amid the commotion and moved to see what was going on. He rushed in to help, taking the two mercenaries down quickly, but it wasn't enough. They were quite angry that someone had interrupted their fun and retaliated full force. They proved to be quite skilled with their blades as Naruto was constantly kept on the defensive and being pushed back. He couldn't fight to his full capacity due to having Tsunami and Inari to protect. Ichigo was watching nearby and decided that it was time to break cover and make himself known. He appeared in a blast of water just in time to block a slash that would have taken Naruto's head off and threw the mercenary back with a burst of strength. Uzumaki-san, are you alright? He told him in a calm voice. He still had to play the part of an ANBU who was dispatched to assist their team and any familiarity would blow his cover. Naruto looked to see a tall fox-masked ANBU staring down at him. Why yeah. Thanks. He said stunned. What's an ANBU doing here? He wondered. Ichigo nodded and flickered away, only to reappear behind the two thugs resheathing his blade as they fell, a spray of blood coming from their throats. Uzumaki, where is your team? There at the bridge. Wait a minute, you don't think Zabuza is attacking again, do you? Yes, I do. Let's go. Right, ANBU-san. With that, the two of them made a mad dash toward the bridge, hoping that they would make it in time. Back at the bridge, Zabuza and Kakashi were deadlocked and Sasuke and Haku were in a stalemate. Haku grew tired of playing around, so she went for her bigger jutsu, Hayatan Sensatsu Susho. He called out calmly as needles made of ice formed out of the vapor in the air and began to rain down on Sasuke, peppering him without mercy. Sasuke was growing angrier with each passing second of the battle. It seemed as if the Hunter Nin was merely toying with him, bruising his pride. He had even activated his Sharingan during the fighting, but it was of little use and it was draining his chakra away. Get out here and fight me properly, you coward! He screamed. Haku scoffed lightly. I thought that this is how shinobi were supposed to fight, using tricks and traps. Not full-scale, one-on-one warfare. Surely, your sensei has taught you this since the blonde one is so adept at it since he actually managed to keep Zabuza-sama at bay. Haku commented. Sasuke let out a growl of indignation. HN. Never compare me to the dobe. We Uchiha are superior to him, you and everyone else. Ever your master is a weakling compared to me, so spare me your parlor tricks. First I'll kill you, then that dobe will die. I will be superior. He sneered. Haku felt anger for the first time in years. Is that so, Uchiha-san? She growled beneath his mask as he blazed through hand seal. The two jounin were doling out blows of their own, with Kakashi sustaining various cuts and gashes, but Zabuza was in much better condition. Out of the corner of his eye, Kakashi spotted Haku making more hand seals for something really nasty. Haku's actually gonna use it. Your brat really should learn when to keep his trap shut. Zabuza commented. Sure enough, Haku was gearing up for something big as she finished going through seals. Hayatan Hijitsu, Makio Hayashu. Haku cried as mirrors made of ice formed a dome around him and Sasuke. Now Uchiha-san, I am serious. He said calmly as he seemed to melt into one of the mirrors. The Hayatan user began to flow from mirror to mirror, launching barrage after barrage of Saban at him. Sasuke was trying his best to fight back, but he just couldn't catch him in time to do it effectively. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind ripped across the bridge, blowing away the heavy mist revealed two figures. One was tall and dressed as a konoha and with a fearsome-looking fox mask. The second turned out to be Naruto, seemingly fully recovered and ready to fight. Uzumaki, go and help your teammate while I deal with Zabuza Momochi and help your sensei. He ordered crisply. Naruto felt that this Anbu earned his trust back at the house and did as he was ordered. Hi Anbu-san, he replied as he made some shadow clones to infiltrate the ice dome and look for weaknesses. What he saw when he got there was one of the last things he wanted to see. Sasuke was turned into a human pincushion, lying face down, and wasn't moving. He felt his hackles rise and his demonic chakra rise within him. Haku noticed the new arrival. Is this the first time you've seen a friend die? He asked almost remorsefully. This is the life of a shinobi. I do not like to kill, but if my master wishes it, I will kill my own heart to do it and serve him with my life. Shut up. Naruto growled, his voice beginning to change. I never liked Sasuke. I hated him, even. But even so, he was my teammate and comrade, you bastard. He screamed as a massive gout of demonic power erupted from him. Back with the jounin, Ichigo intercepted a sword blow meant for Kakashi's head then swiftly kicked Zabuza away. So I have a new playmate. A Konoha Anbu, no less. This might be fun. Hitaki, fall back. I will take it from here. The masked nin commanded. What are you doing here? The copy nin demanded. Hokage-sama got your message and dispatched me to deal with this, he replied firmly, betraying nothing since the man was a jounin for a reason and would be able to see through an act. I can deal with this myself. Leave here now. Hold your tongue and ego until the enemy is silenced, Hitaki. He shot back, nearly cleaving Zabuza's head in two with an overhead slash, but he blocked just in time. The two separate, gauged each other and charged into each other with various sword blows and taijutsu attacks. After a full minute, they separate again. Hey, you're pretty good with that blade, Anbu-san. He commented with a hint of respect along with a nasty gash in his side. You're not bad yourself. Your reputation as one of the 7 swordmen precedes you, Momochi. He replied. Back inside the ice dome, Haku couldn't believe what she was seeing. This boy, what is he? This chakra so powerful and filled with rage, she thought in a panic. She lashed out, hoping to take Naruto down before things got worse, but her Saban were swatted away like they were toys. Outside the dome, Kakashi, Zabuza, and Ichigo halted when they felt the Kyubi chakra. What is that? What's going on? Zabuza asked in a slight panic. The Kyubi, is it breaking free? Kakashi wondered aloud. No. I can sense that Uzumaki is still in control. He is now becoming a true Jinchuriki, able to control some of the demon's power. Zabuza couldn't believe what he just heard. That blonde brat is a Jinchuriki. Of the Kyubi? He shouted, wondering just what he had gotten into. He knew about Jinchuriki and he knew that messing with them is as near to suicidal as one could get. Even one who could control a mere fraction of their beast's power was still a massive threat. Kakashi began to stand up and was about to go and try to stop Naruto, but Ichigo held him back. Let him deal with this on his own, he has his own battle under control, unlike yours. With Tazuna and Sakura, they felt the overwhelming power that exploded from the dome, and could see a blood-red haze inside. Neither one of them had ever felt that kind of power before. They remained rooted to their spots, not wanting to go near the source. Inside the dome, Naruto was kicking the crap out of Haku, finally bashing him through one of his mirrors and disrupted the jutsu, subsequently shattering the rest of the mirrors. Naruto continued to rain blows down on the now helpless Haku in a berserker rage, leaving her looking as though she'd been mauled. He finally finished up with a punch to the heart. The face mask he wore cracked and fell away, revealing a face that the young blonde knew very well. He let his rage fall away and stared in horror. It was Haku's beautiful face. Naruto-kun, this is how it was meant to be. You did nothing wrong. She told Naruto with a sad smile. No, this feels so wrong. Naruto-kun, you only did this to avenge one of your precious people. I'm glad that I got to know you. Haku told him as life faded from her eyes. I'm glad too, Haku. He replied with tears in his eyes, closing Haku's for her. Sakura shot past him to get to Sasuke, who she was busy crying over. Sasuke-kun! She wailed loudly over his body. Naruto felt terrible, but he was too numb from his own troubles to be of much help. Before anyone could move or do anything else, the sound of clapping came from the other side of the bridge. There stood Gato and a small army of his thugs. Bravo! Thanks for killing that brat and saving me the trouble, kid. She broke my arm, so death would have been the least of her worries. I would have made use of her until there was nothing left. He sneered as he kicked Haku's corpse. You bastard! Naruto roared as he began to charge, but was stopped by the ANBU Nin. Uzumaki, calm down. He ordered calmly but firmly. Zabuza turned his attention to the fat man. What are you doing here, Gato? He snarled. I told you I'd do the job. Why pay you when I could just have them weaken you and then kill you all? I could keep my money and head over your head to the Mizuki for your bounty, he told them with a cruel laugh. So, you were going to betray us all along, you little pig man. I should have just killed you. He growled as he turned to the Konoha ninja. Anbu-san, Hataki, the old man is safe from me. You're not my enemy anymore. He told them as he faced the small mercenary army with his Kubikiri Hocho at the ready. Ichigo sighed behind his mask. Very well, Kijin no Kiri. Uzumaki, Hataki. Back away. This is his fight now. They complied and the heavily wounded Zabuza took off like a shot into the throng of men. He fought like a man possessed, a demon, but in the end, he was still mortal, as he was taking lethal damage. He managed to rip through the crowd and reach Gato. With the last of his strength, his relieved Gato's shoulders of his head and collapsed in a bloody heap. The thugs were all outraged. He killed our meal ticket. Let's raid the village and take it all. They clamored. This is bad. I've got no choice but to use it. Ichigo decided in his thoughts as he began to gather as much water and wind as he could around the crowd. His concentration was obvious, as he was glowing a gentle blue as he did it. When he finally had enough, he let it all go. Wind and water dragons literally began to rain down on them, ripping and shredding them all in a bloody and violent show. When the final dragons fell, there were only a small handful left alive. Looks like I missed a few. Easily correctable, he commented as he flickered over to them in a burst of speed and released his viper blade. One lash ran 2 in half with disturbing ease as he continued to slaughter the last of them. 2 slashes later, it was all over. Inari showed up with the villagers. They looked like they were ready for war, arming themselves with crossbows, pitchforks, axes and other tools. Ichigo turned to them. Sorry, but you're a little late to the party. He told them in a sheepish tone, chuckling a little bit. Looks like I overdid it a bit, he commented lamely as he made his way over to where Zabuza lay. Naruto couldn't help hearing that. A little bit? That was little for you. I'd hate to see what you'd consider overkill, he exclaimed. Kakashi had the same sentiments. He'd never seen someone with such a powerful command over wind or water like him. I was like he owned the 2 elements, bending them to his will. I can't copy this. What the hell is he doing? He thought as he covered up his Sharingan eye to save chakra. Who is he? Never seen or heard to him before. This is something I'll have to ask the Hokage about when we get back. Hey Anbu-san. Could you carry me over to where Haku is? Zabuza asked him in labored breaths as his time grew short. Ichigo nodded solemnly and granted his request. He carried Zabuza over to the girl's body and laid him down beside her. Thank you, he told the masked blonde as he turned his attention to the girl he thought of as his daughter. I'm sorry, Haku. I should have done better, you deserve better. I hope that you don't go where I'm going and that you'll be happy there. Goodbye, he said in pain as he regarded Ichigo again. I have one final request. I'd like to see the face of the one who avenged me. He confided in him. Ichigo nodded his head while pulling his mask off slightly so the dying man could see his face. Zabuza gave him a proud smirk, knowing that the ANBU gave him the rare honor of seeing his face, dying with that same expression on his own. Naruto stood off to the side, bowing his head in respect for the deceased as Ichigo closed his eyes for the final time. He stood up slowly, concentrating hard as he held his hands in front of him as water collected around him. Suddenly, a small tidal wave crashed over the bridge and washed away the bodies of the thugs and most of the blood. There. Clean up mostly done, he commented as he turned to Team 7. He walked over to where Sasuke lay and checked him. He knew the boy wasn't dead, so he pried the near-hysterical Sakura off of him and pulled the senbon from his neck carefully, bringing him back to consciousness almost immediately. He'll live. He got off easy compared to your teammate, who did the brunt of the fighting and took the opponent down. Why haven't you checked on him yet? He questioned. Sakura tried to defend her actions, but came up with nothing to say, thanks to her inner burning away at her other persona's selfish reasonings with ruthless efficiency. When he got no answer from her, he sighed, created 2 Kage Bunshin, and turned to the rest of the party. Kakashi, order your team to the client's residence to regroup and recover from their fatigue and wounds. he commanded while giving it instructions to escort the team, the client, and his family to their house and await him. I will take care of the bodies of Momochi and his apprentice. He finished as he and the remaining clone went to go bury the bodies properly. Naruto sprung to his side. Could I go with you? To help bury them, I mean. Haku was just like me, and I killed her. I feel like I owe her this much, he asked the tall Anbu sadly. He looked to Kakashi and saw that he brooked no argument with that decision, or more like he was too busy with the Uchiha to care. Okay. Follow me, Uzumaki. We'll bury them on the bluffs overlooking the bridge. He told him. The two of them set off with the bodies as Sakura watched the two of them with mixed emotions, as her two personas were still struggling for dominance within her. Her inner wondered if Naruto was handling his first kill alright, and was worried about him, as he did do most of the fighting and took down a strong opponent. That same side was also wondering what that red chakra was and just who that Anbu that saved their sensei and their team. He was powerful, very powerful if he could just eradicate that many mercenaries in one blow. Her fangirl persona was, sadly, still harping on about how Naruto was just a murderer now and that he stole Sasuke's victory from him, but was frightened of the Anbu, whom she thought was a monster for killing that many people in cold blood. On the cliffs, Kitsune and Naruto had just finished laying Zabuza to rest, plunging his Zanbatsu into the ground to act as a headstone. As they reached for Haku, they saw that she was moving ever so slightly. Naruto's eyes flew wide. Haku-chan! He cried as he contacted Saki. Saki, can you help her? Please! He pleaded with the fox demoness. She was one of the first friends his own age that he had and he was going to do whatever it took to save her. Saki reached out and sensed her faint life force. Naruto-chan, I can't promise you anything, but I'll try. Place your palm over her heart, and I'll do the rest. She ordered. Naruto complied and let Saki's crimson chakra flow into the near-dead girl's body. Slowly, color started to return to her cheeks and her breathing steadied. Ichigo watched on in awe. He knew exactly what was going on, but Saki's power never ceased to amaze him. He was glad that this girl was being given a second chance at life. She seemed like she was very kind and from what Naruto told him, he almost saw her like a big sister. He paused, however, when he thought of how to explain this to the Hokage. How am I going to spin this with the old man? He thought as his brows furrowed. I guess I'll play this by ear. I just gotta be careful about it. I have a bad feeling that if the fact that she has an unknown bloodline gets out to the wrong people before I have measures in place, the council will try to whore her out to the Uchiha. I can't and won't let that happen, for her sake and for Naruto's. He added. He already knew that Kakashi and Sasuke would have to be watched very carefully, and if they showed signs of harming her or Naruto in any way, he'd take care of it personally, then hand them over to Anko and Ibiki when they got back. Naruto was clutching Haku for dear life, just glad that she wasn't dead. Haku-nichan, he sobbed into her battle kimono. Haku was still trying to shake the cobwebs from her head as she heard him crying. I'm not dead? She breathed out. No, you're not Haku-nichan, he told her happily. She looked over at the tall Anbu next to him nervously, but something about his aura calmed her down considerably. Don't worry, Haku-san. I will not harm you. I wish to extend to you an invitation to join Konoha, since you were never a registered kunoichi, and you have no allegiances. I will bring you before the Hokage personally and will make sure that no harm befalls you. He told her softly with a slight bow. Neither Haku or Naruto could believe it. Haku couldn't believe that the solution to her problem had been offered to her, and Naruto was shocked that this Anbu was being so nice. He had been cordial to him, and treated him like a person. Now, his new precious person was going to live in his village and again this Anbu member helped him. Haku's head was spinning from all of the news, both good and bad. The good news was that she and Zabuza were no longer under Gata's thumb, and neither was Wave Country. Zabuza had personally slayed the tyrannical businessman, and she now had safe passage into Fire Country and even an invite to become a Konoha shinobi. However, she had lost Zabuza. She was happy, though, that he had been avenged by the tall Anbu before her, and she at least knew that Zabuza cared for her as if she were his own daughter. She and Naruto passed out from exhaustion shortly afterward. Kitsune sighed as he collected both of the kids in his arms and left the area in a cyclone of water, bound for Tazuna's house.